Thank you, everybody, for waiting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Does that sound? Well, let me go ahead on. And call in. Executive session, we had one vote, which was to approve the executive session minutes. Date of those minutes was to June 3rd, 2025. I'd like to make a motion to take item F1, 2, and 3 out of order so that we can pile not stay any longer than it needs to. So to have a motion to take F1, 2, and 3 out of order. Any discussion? Kyle, we'll have you up.
So we have three items here. Number one is a recommendation for a proposal to do a project to relocate the entrance of the middle school. Um, so this was in design. We did some early estimates. Things were running a little higher than we expected, which were going to start causing more review by RIDE. They have a $500,000 cutoff. Anything over that, it just takes more time, which makes sense. More money it is. So, talking with administration and the middle school, they really wanted to focus on this project. So we pared this down to its minimum so we could try to keep it below that 500,000 and proceed with this project. So in in the to speed that process up and keep moving, we used an MPA from the state to get a quote from E.W. Berman, who was the same contractor that did the connector at the high school last year. And they came in with a price of $366,319. So this includes making a new entrance at the rear of the building, plus moving the administration. That initial price, they had left off some bonds and insurance. So you see on the summary for another $8,050 that adds in bonds for it and all the insurances that are needed. And then we added a $50,000 allowance for furniture and fixtures in that space for a total of 424,369. We're recommending to move forward with E.W. Berman. This project would start this summer, but it would not be done by the start of school. We've talked to them about this. They are isolated in what is essentially two classrooms right now. They'll have direct access to the outside. Um, and the only thing that'll have to be coordinated is making sure what will be the future entrance remains open during once school starts for egress. But their concern is the new doors coming in and mechanical and getting them in time. So right now it's projected to probably go into October. But if this is approved, then we get a better schedule and we can share that schedule with you.
That work, Kyle, will it impede or interfere with arrival or dismissal in those buses in any way?
No, so the the initial plan, and again, these are just initial conversations with them, is we have to remove a little bit of sidewalk, prepare a foundation for, they're going to make a real vestibule in in that area. And um, they would try to get all that work done this summer so that it is passable during the school year. At some point, they're going to have to install pieces at that entrance, and that's where the coordination will be. Is there will be work right outside that door, And that'll have to be coordinated, whether that's done mornings before they, if they can do it in pieces. Um, but obviously until we know exactly that time frame when they plan on getting that equipment, um, we won't know what to do.
So this entrance, this proposed entrance, is this going to be where, so years ago, they had done some of this work to have the entrance to the side where all middle schoolers were supposed to enter, all visitors were supposed to enter. Is that what we're talking about in that same existing area? Like when you come in down around the cafeteria, around on that side?
No, so it is
So completely different.
completely on the end of the building. So when you come back and you go to near the back parking lot, as you kind of pass the building and wrap around, it is the door that's right along that driveway.
So, so where like the back parking lot is?
Yes.
So, and I'm hoping there's a good reason, why wouldn't we attempt to do it in the area where, I know at one point, this is before my time on the committee, but I remember they had moved it, they moved offices, they moved everything to accommodate a side entrance over there.
So the big thing when we looked at this, is it's the easiest place to make a proper secure entrance based on today's standards.
Okay,
So we build a vestibule. I think we're knocking down one wall and building one wall. I mean, it's relatively easy. And all visitors, once students arrive, all visitors will be buzzed into a vestibule, and their only option at that point will be go directly into the main office. So there will.
I'm terrible with like envisioning, right?
Yep.
So, and I think that's one of the biggest pieces because for the longest time, and I think it still exists now, is if you're a middle school visitor, you come in through the high school.
Yes.
And-
Currently, you come in the side door, which is locked, but the office gives you access to the building.
Which is not secure.
And then there's a stairway. You're basically in a stairway. You then come out into one of the main corridors, and you're basically relying on either somebody from the office coming down there to keep an eye on somebody or hope that they go in the direction they want. So this would allow, similar to the high school entrance, where there's a secure vestibule,
Yep.
and once school's in session, your only option is to enter a door directly into the office. You'll have the same situation on the complete opposite end of the building for the middle school.
Is the goal, I don't know if I'm getting too far ahead, is the goal would, we would still be dropping students off busing wise in the circle in front of the building, or would be buses be going around to drop them off on?
So our plan, and Jason can speak to this.
Yeah, no, just trying to get like
Yeah, our
visualize.
plan is not to change any of the bus pattern or bus loops. We're purely making, I mean, I'll say a visitor entrance, because at arrival, obviously, the doors are open to get
Yep.
more kids through. So this is purely to create a secure entrance for visitors during the day. Now, I mean, you can look at, but without changing any of the parking and drive, either the front or the side near the cafeteria would make the most sense for getting kids in and out quickly.
So yeah, that's kind of so I've been there a number of times at those times, right? And as has a lot of us. So the buses come in, no cars pull in the circles. That's kind of, that's well pleased. If you're a parent dropping off, you are directed around the entire back of the school, and then they drop off on a side. Yes. Would that remain the same, or would students be dropped off into that entrance? I'm sorry,
I think that the traffic pattern works very well the way we have it. So it's going, I envision that the buses will drop in the front circle, parents will still circle the building and drop off. Once the bell rings, those doors are all locked, and then we'd have a secure entrance
Okay.
for the middle school parents.
I'm just trying to see the
Nope, I get it.
practicality of it. And I do, obviously, the more we can define our middle and high school, the better we are for so many reasons. So
Yeah. It'll give two very similar entrances. Your only two doors would be accessed directly into either the high school office or the middle school office. If somebody goes to the wrong one, they can be directed through, but it would make both entrances secure. You don't have a door in the middle of the school that somebody could be let into easily.
perfect.
With the change in the cost, what are we giving up? How are we able to?
So on this one, the change in the cost was really putting the allowance in for furniture. We took I won't say we took much out of this one. This one was very close to begin with. So, um, not combining it with other things, made this a little more focused. Um, as the fire alarm project is still underway, we left fire alarm out of this, so there may be a little change based on, we didn't want to tell them to go in and change something while the other project is still going on. So we got to flush those things out. So we set a few things kind of to the side, nothing major, just to make sure that we could keep this below. But as you can see, we're not that far below the 500. So there was not a huge difference from our estimate on this project. It was really the other pieces we were trying to add to it that were creating the
Were you trying to add these
Problem.
other pieces for the bundling effect of
yeah,
reimbursement?
yeah. So the initial idea was there are, I don't know, there's two other renovations similar to this size, one that requires this to happen, and then renovate the area that the office is in now. Um, of renovations to the culinary classroom, and then there's some odds and ends, electrical upgrades, things like that. We were trying to just get, if we're going to have a contractor, get it all in one package, do it all at once. But that's where it just, even breaking it up into pieces, it just started to snowball and become bigger than we had time to do all at once. And instead of waiting until next year and do everything, this was a focus, and we wanted to try to get this in this year.
Any more questions from the school committee on the entrance? Do you want to go on to the next one, or should we vote on it one at a time?
It's up to you. This is going to be bond funded. So it's my understanding that after your vote, it has to go to the town council
The
for
first
approval.
was just bonded?
So actually all of these involve bond money. All three of these involve bond money. But just so that's my understanding is after your vote, it still has to go to bond. So or to the town council. So it's
It's
not
the
something
process.
that can start next week, even with your vote. It's going to take a little time before anyone sees
I think
these.
for efficiency reasons, we'll just go one at a time. So I make a motion to approve the middle school entrance renovation contract.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the second project is the North Scituate Elementary School corridor renovations. So involves replacing all the flooring and painting all the corridors at North Scituate. This was publicly bid. I think we had three submissions. Marin Construction was the low. You'll see on here it was bid in two phases. The older portion of the school and then the addition near around the gym. That was purely done in case there were front budget restrictions on this and all the projects, so that we had a clean break if we needed to push some of this off. But the total is 266,295. Marin is a good contractor. They've been around a long time. They do a lot of school work. So our recommendation was to approve this. They do have concerns. So as we told them, they understood the process. We said we have to go to school committee, then we have to go to town council. Just yesterday, they were checking in on it, and there is some concern that this may not be able to happen this summer. But until we have some approval where we can start moving forward, they can't, get their subs on board and commit to getting materials in time. So, um, we'll keep moving forward with this until they basically tell us we don't have enough time to do the project, and then we'll sit down and look at other options.
How long does it take to do that project?
So it's
Not a vacation enough? to
it's
get-
probably not a vacation. So I mean, you could do it in pieces. It's probably 3 to 4 weeks of actual work.
So if we
but-
don't get this in time, then it may have to wait till next summer and probably.
Yeah, and they may be.
Have it-
Yeah, I mean, we can talk to Jason. Like you may be able to get in there and rip up the old floor, clean it, level it, so you just have a concrete slab that may be able to, suffice. It won't be dangerous for a period of time until they can get in and do flooring and parts of it off hours. We'd have to discuss all that, whether there's cost implications to that in Marin's number. We kind of haven't gone that far yet. So the real concern here is for them to get their sub to commit to a schedule and get materials in time and still fit it in before school opens. So
Any other questions from the school committee? Do I have a motion to accept the North Situate quarter upgrades?
Second. Did you just make I didn't hear you. Did you just make a motion?
Do I have a motion to accept
Yes.
the North Situate quarter upgrades?
Second.
No, I
Oh.
need you to make a motion.
Oh, you need to make a motion? I'll make a motion for the North Situate quarter updates. Second.
Any more discussion from the school committee? All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last one?
all right, the last one involves the North Situate Elementary School fire alarm project. So if first I'd like to apologize to the committee for getting this in yesterday. We were still trying to iron all this out right before I sent it over to you. So if you remember when I was here a few months ago with the other change orders, there were 3 items. So the second page in your packet shows the list that were highlighted that were still under discussion because they had just come in. So this is about these 3 items. So it involves credits for some work that wasn't done, some devices that weren't needed to be installed, some additional devices that were installed, and changing some devices in an exterior room. So that's the one, that's the big one. So we'll get to that in a moment. In your packet, you'll see each one broken down. The black text was the original one sent to us on what these were for and the cost. The red text is from our engineer EDS. That's their response to it. And then the blue text is the response from A&J, the contractor, towards EDS's remarks. So there was a number of detectors that they were looking for involving they're basically involving the heat that they go off on that involved in the cafeteria. EDS came back and said it wasn't an additional cost that should have been part of the project. A&J relented or finally agreed and said, okay, we won't ask for that fee. The credit on here, they gave a credit of $2,500 roughly for some devices that weren't installed. We pushed back and said, okay, well, how about the actual physical devices and all this? They came back and said they were all purchased together. So we have the devices, we'll turn them over to the school. So we settled on that credit. So the third item, during the last group of change orders, there was a change for an exterior storage room that was missed. So we had one, we were showing one, and there's actually 2 outside. So one of the approved change orders was to put devices in that room. During the fire marshal's walkthrough, it was identified that devices that went in that room can't go in unconditioned space. So essentially, the space out there is little more than a shed that's attached to the building, and has no heat whatsoever in it. So A&J provided a price to replace those with devices that can be outside in unconditioned space. That was the $6,500. EDS's initial response was that they did not tell them to put, so addressable devices have to be in conditioned space. Conventional devices can be in unconditioned space, just so it's a little easier for me to explain. EDS just said put devices in there. They did not say addressable or conventional. A&J, as every device in the whole school up to that point was an addressable device, went and installed addressable devices in there until it was picked up by the fire marshal that there was no heat in that building. So if you read through that first section, that's the summary of that response. My initial response to the 2 of them was, okay, it sounds like everybody missed this a little bit. EDS could have asked, or we could have looked. I could have asked, we could have looked. A&J was in the space. They could have asked, could have looked. I offered to that the school and A&J split this cost because everybody has a little fault. A&J pushed back. In a little more thinking, there is some programming involved that brings in a subcontractor who it's a flat fee. Probably half of this is that programming. So I said, okay, let's not do that. You don't owe the programming piece. You know, you're not at they're not at fault for that having to be done. And we had some more discussion about splitting the remainder of it. And A&J's stance was they voided this other portion of this change order for it was $2,500 when they didn't necessarily think that that was part of the contract, but instead of fighting over that $2,500, they said, okay, if we take this as a whole, we'll we'll take this out. And after some conversation over the last few days, we decided that all right, it's reasonable. They have come some way. If you take all three items as a whole, they have come. They have taken some responsibility for a couple of these things, and that we would leave this in for the remainder. So the total, once you put the credit and the ad together, is $3,944.45. I know that was a lot, but
How do we prevent this from happening? Like who, I know everyone's doing this, right? And everyone had a part of it.
yep.
I would imagine, but I don't know, like the person actually installing a fire alarm. Are they not licensed? Do they know that they're installing a fire alarm that is an alarm that is for a conditioned space in a outdoor shed? Like, I'm not actually looking for fault. I'm just like,
Yeah.
how do we stop this from happening again? Is
So,
there someone that's in charge of walking around and looking at this and double checking?
um,
I don't know.
it could have obviously could have been prevented. The first change could have been prevented if we had identified the room. So this room space was missed in the original drawings to begin with. So that didn't help the situation. So now we're trying to react in the middle of a project to get this room on board. EDS should have been clearer. Well, I think EDS should have been clearer in their response, but their response probably would have been they could have either asked me, which I wouldn't have known, then I would have asked Jason and we would have eventually figured it out. But their response probably would have been put addressable system in there because that is the standard of the day, which would have been incorrect. That's where we ended up. Um, again, when we added it, it was a room that's only accessible from the outside. EDS it could have, they didn't think about asking whether that was conditioned. It came through me. I didn't think about asking whether that was conditioned. Then we gave it to A&J, who made a reasonable assumption that it should be addressable because every other device is addressable. They could have asked. They were also installing this in late August, early September when last year the weather wasn't overly hot, it wasn't overly cold, so they had no real means of understanding whether that space is conditioned or not. But again, my initial reaction was, all right, we were not clear enough in our response to you, and they made some assumptions that they probably should have asked, and their basic response is, they didn't think there was anything to ask. So everybody kind of missed it. This is one of those things that there were ways to prevent it, but at the same time, it wasn't so egregious of a mistake that things like this won't happen again. It's in a small space. They were in and out fairly quickly. It was a time of year where condition wouldn't have mattered whether they were in there. You know, if they were doing this in November, they may have said, wait a minute, this space is clearly colder than everything. Like there was nothing that really triggered this other than, we have two, my designer, I was in there. They had probably 3 or 4 electricians in there, and any of us could have at any point said, wait a minute, is the space conditioned? And nobody did. So it's not really a great answer. Is there, there was ways to prevent it. Could it happen again? Yeah, because it's not something that was like there was some situation that they should have known. It was just that everybody should have asked the questions so that we could have confirmed it ahead of time.
would just be nice to hear that, going forward, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to make sure
Yeah, so on the
this is not gonna.
the two schools, as we talked about last time, the two schools that are happening this summer, Clayville and Hope, we spent a lot more time after learning of these issues with the existing drawings. We spent a lot more time trying to confirm that. We spent more time with the fire marshal on those two schools, who knows those schools very well. He knows where almost every device is. So we don't anticipate that happening at the two schools, but this is something that could still happen. It's a minor enough item that it's easy to overlook. And 5 or 6 people overlooked it this time. It could happen again. It's not something that you know absolutely you should look around and everybody goes, somebody should have seen this. Like, it is a relatively simple mistake that shouldn't have happened, but
Did it.
yeah.
Does any other school committee member have questions?
And I'll just add, this will end the North Scituate fire alarm. So once they have this work, they have 3 devices they have to move over a tile, which the fire marshal picked up. And then when that work's done,
We're done with.
we're done with that school.
If there's no more questions, do I have a motion to approve item number 3 for the North Situate Fire credit and change orders?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. That brings us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes, regular session minutes, June 3rd, 2025, June 10th, 2025, and June 27th, 2025. Bills, general fund bills for $594,256.10. Grant fund bills, $21,019.00. The Northwest Special Education, 616 cents. And school food service funds, $36.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? That brings us to public comment. And for those who are attending for the first time, I just want to read my little blurb. The public comment period is not a time for dialogue. A meeting of a public committee, a public school committee is not a meeting of the public. It's a meeting of the school committee that is held in public. The purpose of the public committee, the purpose of the public committee period is for this committee to receive input from its community. Public comment is an important function and is critical for us to listen to the community and to consider what we hear when making our decisions. In general, it is not a time to receive direct responses from the school committee. However, we may provide brief factual clarification if necessary. Otherwise, a public comment section is for you to voice your concerns without engaging in debate with the school committee members. It is important for you to know that you may not be getting your answers to your questions during public comment sections, but that does not mean you will not be given answers. There are other opportunities for you to get your answers. For example, you can call or email any school committee member, and you can now reach out to the school parent PAC representative. This process is designed to allow consistency and fairness and to allow everyone a chance to be heard without unduly disrupting the meeting flow and allowing the school committee to complete its business in a timely fashion. As a result, in order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak and an opportunity for us to hear your comments, I'll allow each person to come to the mic once during public comment. If you find that you have additional comments after your turn is over, then please address them at a later time by reaching out to a school committee member or the superintendent. Having said that, we appreciate you coming to this meeting, and we thank you in advance for expressing your thoughts with us. And that brings us to public comment. If you have a comment, come up and say your name and address.
Hi, I'm Jenna Rutherford. I'm at 334 Bungie Road. I want to formally ask that Erica recuses herself when the school committee is discussing the budget. I feel this is a conflict of interest as her husband is on town council. There was a meeting scheduled for June 18th between Erica, Tim, and other school committee members. Fortunately, this meeting was canceled, but these meetings cannot happen. It's unacceptable that this meeting was ever even proposed, and I was horrified when I heard that there was a secret meeting.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
No, but I would like you to recuse yourself when we do talk about the budget.
I understand, so thank you for that.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Hi, everyone. Michael Smith, 241 Hope Furnace Road. I think we're only allowed to discuss things not on the agenda, right? Because that's like, we can discuss that stuff when it comes up.
We do allow comment
Okay.
on things that are on the agenda.
Okay. I'm actually talking about, and I actually wish Jason stayed here. You guys keep bringing up all these change orders, all these different things. It starts at the top. I have no faith in your facilities director. I have been working with that facilities director for 2 years now on issues at Hope. It wasn't until I brought it to Lori's attention that all of a sudden the vestibule got fixed. That was leaking since October when it was installed. There was mold issues. There was definitely additional funding that we had to pay for as a result of Jason not taking my advice, not looking into it, just blowing it off. There's a stone wall that's falling down at that school. I have photos if you want to see how they fixed it. There's just cement randomly placed, bricks upside down. You keep looking at fire alarm issues, all these things. It starts with Jason, and it's not a personal matter. I think Jason's a really nice guy. He's always been very cordial with me. He's always answered my questions, answered my emails. Sometimes it took a little bit of follow up, but realistically, he doesn't know the job. And we keep holding him in this position, and it's costing us all money. We don't have any money. So I just want you guys to start looking at that. Maybe we can start looking into all of the issues we've been having with the facilities and start realizing where it's coming from. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I think just to speak to that briefly and not address the whole piece of it, but I appreciate Jason being here today to go over the work orders and the change requests. But I know historically, in my time here, generally most of our meetings, the facilities director is because generally there's always something on our agenda that addresses some piece of facility. So I don't know why that's changed, why, because I would like Jason to be here to be able to like, and I understand. Yeah, absolutely, but I don't know if that's something you want to consider, Lori. Obviously hearing from the public. And this is no reflection on him, but I'm speaking historically that our facilities director used to be at all of our meetings.
So I can, just as we have done, right? Just as we have a report from the finance director on each agenda, I can put a report from Jason on a facilities update on each agenda, if that is the committee's request.
I'm one member of the committee, but I thought it would be appropriate time to bring forward that, it is, you make, I mean, obviously our biggest. Yeah. Mhm. And again, I know all of our administrators work very hard and work a lot of different hours and do different things. But if in fact, there is something that we have that section that if you be present for that, so just like you said, if there's any place where anybody has questions about our facilities, obviously that's a big, huge piece of our budget and of our that they would know that he'd be here to answer those questions.
Well, the building committee meets every single month, so it stands to reason that the facilities director would give a report out every month.
Yeah,
So I will add that to the agenda.
thank you.
Good afternoon. Michael Marcello, Chalmers Hill Road. I'm here to speak on item F6, I just want to comment a little bit about what had happened at the financial town meeting. I think the voters of this town, and particularly the parents who I have a lot of respect for, who organized and got people together to actually attend the financial town meeting, one of the best attended in many, many years, through their efforts. They took the extraordinary step basically of restoring money to your school department budget that you had originally proposed. Your budget was originally $190,000 greater than what had been actually presented at the financial town meeting. And I realized that was the budget that you proposed. The council came back and asked you to cut. You cut $190,000 from it. And then the voters at the financial town meeting, which is their absolute right, appropriated money from the budget reserve on unassigned fund balance to that $190,000. I was there for that motion. I heard the motion. I think the person who made the motion was very clear that she recognized the fact that that money could be restored and would be restored if they had enough votes, but was also respectful of the fact that the school committee would have the ultimate say of where that money was going to be spent, and that the motion could only just add to the bottom line. I'm here to advocate for those parents who actually were there, and I would hope the school committee, given the extraordinary attempts that were made and the actually historic, frankly, to put that money back, that the school committee recognize and respect the will of the voters who came to that meeting and restore the funds to the intended purpose as stated in that motion. Thank you.
Hang on, I want to make sure we're clear. So I know we had talked about, you had originally come up and said, are we going to ask? I don't know, do we want to open it up? That isn't a listed agenda item on. We can certainly open it up to everybody, or if it's specific to that item, should we wait until we get to that piece on the budget? I mean, on the agenda.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
we should wait till we get to that piece on the agenda.
Okay.
50-50 shot. Matthew Allen, 159 Old Furnace Road. I just would like an update. I'm sure she's going to give it because it's on enrollment. If the numbers fluctuated. So I know it's coming up. I just wanted to throw it out there since the money and all
I
that.
have enrollment numbers for K-5 for all 3 elementary schools.
And it's
in my
coming.
report.
Also, why is public comment before all of this? Like, is there a certain, like, I feel like if public comment went after, like,
Well, some
Lor-
agendas can,
Lori's,
some agendas can have a public comment in the beginning and
Yep.
then at the end, but it's helpful for us to hear people's thoughts before we get into our business. But we also still allow, as you know, public comment while we go item by item. Many committee members, committees don't allow that. They just allow the public comment in the beginning, not to participate at all during the business and then at the end, but we allow it all the way through.
I just figured it would cut down on some of the back and forths if,
I think the actually public comment has been cut down a
Yeah.
good deal because of the lack of dialogue.
well, I just, my question has to wait for Lori and I just want to make sure it gets said is all I was like.
We heard you. Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Richard Finnegan, Ridge Road. I just heard about a meeting on June 18th. Where was this meeting? Who was invited to it? And what did it concern?
We're not going to have a dialogue at this time, so if you want to reach out to myself or the superintendent afterwards, you certainly can.
Were you there?
We're not going to have a discussion at this time during public comment, as I had stated. If you have questions afterwards, you can reach out to me or the superintendent.
All right.
I'll answer that question. I think it's a fair
I
question.
do not want to have a dialogue.
There was a
Appropriate.
question that was asked, and I'm going to answer to the response.
Okay.
So there was a meeting that I was made aware of, reviewing the budget. And the meeting was to be held with the town treasurer, Mr. McCormick, Mrs. McCormick, our director of curriculum, our finance director, and did not include our superintendent. When I was made aware of this meeting, I went to the meeting. I wasn't invited to the meeting, but once I heard of it, I went to this meeting. And at that point, I'm a member of a school committee. I have no power. But I let Mrs. McCormick know that I thought that the meeting was completely inappropriate, and that the school committee does not answer to the town treasurer or any member of the town council. We as a body can certainly interact. And if she thought that this meeting was necessary, that she should put it on the public agenda to be discussed by the full committee. So that's the answer to that response. And the meeting did not happen.
Mr. Medbury, were you invited to this meeting as a school committee member? Ms. Rose?
No, I was not invited.
Ms. Fauci?
I wasn't aware.
Superintendent Andres?
No.
How is it possible that Tim McCormick, a council person, shows up at a meeting at the school department?
I can tell you
The
right,
treasurer
Finnegan, the information that you've
shows up.
given was not accurate. I'm not going to have this conversation here. The
Well,
information you were
clear
given
the
was
record.
not accurate.
We're in the public, and obviously you want to be transparent
No,
because
Mr.
that's what you
Finnegan,
tell,
if you're-
that's what
if
you
you're gonna
tell
be
parents.
disruptive, I'm going to have you removed.
That's, excuse me?
Yep, you heard me.
Go ahead,
So
try it. Try
If you
it.
have,
Try
if
it.
you have anything else to say, you
I
can reach out
challenge
to me
you.
afterward.
I challenge you right now to try
Because the
it.
information you've been given is.
I challenge you right now to try to remove me.
Point of order, Mr. Finnegan, if I may. The information that was provided, it was not provided by a member of the audience. It was provided by a school committee member.
It was not accurate.
So let's be specific. The information that I provided at this meeting is not accurate.
Correct.
So let me ask you, was your husband in attendance at that scheduled meeting?
The people in attendance were there. The purpose of the meeting was not accurate.
What was the purpose of the meeting? To discuss, I was told it was to discuss the fund balance and how that people don't understand that there was not money that was actually there
That
to
is
be
not
utilized.
accurate.
Erica, you said this to me.
No, the purpose of that meeting was to put together a PowerPoint as
Discuss what?
as a community, for the community.
To understand what?
What a fund balance is, how it's used, how it's not.
What, Erica, what I just said is that you stated that the purpose of that meeting was to discuss the general public's lack of knowledge regarding the fund balance. Is that accurate or not accurate?
To discuss how to put together a PowerPoint presentation to explain to the community what a fund balance is.
So I think I think that we could really go down a road, and I don't want this to be, we have a lot on the agenda. There's a lot of people here to discuss a lot of things. So I think as a school committee member, what I will request is at the next school committee meeting, which is scheduled the first week in August, that we will have a discussion, an open session regarding the roles and responsibilities of the members of the school committee, including the chair.
Do you feel like there was an ethics were violated? Because go to the ethics commission. I would want to.
No, I think what's important is that everyone here understands what their role is. As individual members of a committee, we have no power greater than anyone. The role of the chair is to set the agenda and run the meetings. I, Colleen Pendergast, have no power over anybody in the Scituate School District Department. I am a member. If I have something that I want to enact change on, if there's something that I think is wrong, I have a responsibility to put that on a public agenda with public notice and discuss it with the committee. There's no individual members do not have roles that exceed that.
I'll be waiting for your disclosure and your transparency. And I thank you, Madam Chairwoman Pendergast, for being transparent and letting the public know exactly what.
I am not the chairperson of this committee. I am a member.
Madam
Thank you.
School committee member. I think the school committee has an issue with this chair. She takes a directive from her husband, who is on the town council.
You're out of line.
This-
You're out of order, and you're out of line.
Exactly.
I'm going
Yeah,
to.
you're out of line. So I would ask the
Please
school
Please
committee
sit down.
to,
You're out
on the
of
next
line.
agenda,
You're-
take a vote
You're out of line.
and oust this
You're out of.
chairperson. So I would
Once
ask you to put that on the next agenda item. Thank you.
Anyone want to follow that? No more public comment? Anyone at home? That brings us to James Balsamo had applied to be on the building committee.
Superintendent's report.
Holy mackerel. You know what? I jumped right over.
I know, I follow that public comment.
Yes, there is. Thank you, Lori.
Okay, so, this evening, I'm going to talk to the community and the school committee, and I'm gonna start with, student enrollment. As you know, our numbers fluctuate and change, pretty, consistently throughout the summer with students registering, students and families leaving. So I ran the numbers, as of July 1. And, I'm just focused on the elementary schools at this point. The middle school and the high school, the numbers are fairly flat. There are not enrollment numbers and or fluctuations that will cause us to have any discussions about staffing adjustments at this time. So currently, Hope, as of July 1, Hope had 22 kindergarten students registered. As of today at 12:30, that number is now 26. Clayville had 13 students as of July 1. As of today at 12:30, we have 16. As of July 1, North Scituate had 36 kindergartners. As of 12:30 today, they have 35. Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 at both Hope and Clayville have remained the same from July 1 to today at 12:30. Grade 1 at Hope is 20, grade 2 is 21, grade 3 is 37, grade 4 is 29, and grade 5 is 30. Clayville, grade 1 is 22, grade 2 is 25, grade 3 is 15, grade 4 is 25, and grade 5 is 25. North Scituate has had a couple of fluctuations. Grade 1, July 1 was 41. Today at 12:30, they are 40. Grade 2 has remained consistent at 40. Grade 3 is consistent at 39. Grade 4, as of July 1, was 39. They have dropped 1 as of this afternoon to 38. Grade 5 is 46. So Hope has a total enrollment K to 5 of 159. Clayville has a total enrollment K to 1, a K to 5 of 125. And North Scituate has a total enrollment of 254. Those are your current, as of today, 12:30 numbers. In 2 weeks, those numbers may be different, but that's what they are as of 12:30 today. The next thing I'd like to discuss is our employee updates, and I want to welcome the new principal at North Scituate Elementary School. He was a unanimous recommendation to the superintendent and the curriculum director, and we are pleased to announce and welcome Mr. Kyle Gallivan as the new principal of North Scituate Elementary School. He is not here with us tonight because that poor soul is in Hawaii. Don't we all feel bad for him? I will put him back on the agenda for the August meeting so that you will actually get to put a face to a name. Mr. Gallivan brings a strong foundation in both teaching and leadership. He's earned his bachelor's degree in history with a business management minor from Assumption College and a master's in social leadership from Providence College. He began his career as a middle school social studies teacher with a passion for 8th grade civics, including U.S. government and early American history. He claims that his highlight of his career was a teacher residency at Mount Vernon, where he watched the sunrise from George Washington's front porch. He went to serve on as a humanities instructional coach and an assistant principal at both Ford Middle School in Acushnet, Mass., and Gallagher Middle School in Smithfield, Rhode Island, where he facilitated data meetings, he led the MTSS process, he served as LEA for special ed meetings, hosted community events like Star Wars, movie nights, and trivia, and he led ELA and social studies curriculum efforts. This is his first principalship, and he shared the following message with his parents. I'm confident that by working together, we'll continue to do great things for our students. Please join us in welcoming Mr. Gallivan to Scituate. We are very pleased to have him with us. A facilities update. There is a lot of work going on in our buildings and in our community. 4 out of the 5 district buildings are undergoing a new fire alarm system installation. Preliminarily, the fire marshal reports have been received for Hope, Clayville, North Scituate, and we will forward those, as I do annually, to the school committee for your review. And the facilities department has issued work orders for all noted deficiencies. At North Scituate, the new system is fully installed and operational. Additional upgrades are planned. Hallway floor tiles will be replaced, walls will be painted, and classroom furniture is being removed for deep cleaning. The PFAS system, the PFAS, not PFAS, system in North Scituate. That work continues to be done. The Rhode Island Department of Health has entered into a PFAS consent agreement in April, and the correction action plan was submitted and approved, and a pilot plan was sent to the Department of Health in May of this year. The district is urging the Department of Health to expedite the approval, as installation of the pilot system this summer will be critical. The next required submission is the preliminary engineering application, and that should be submitted by August 18th, but work cannot proceed until the pilot results are returned. At the high school and middle school, custodial work is focused on areas not currently occupied by the contractors. The fire alarm system is scheduled to be completed this summer prior to the opening of school. I have been in the building weekly, speaking to the workers and checking on the progress, although I am not a fire alarms installation specialist. I am trying to ensure that they are on schedule to get that work completed prior to the opening of school. Furniture is being removed for deep cleaning, and work is being scheduled at the baseball field at Manning. I do not have the specifics around that Manning work, but I'm sure the community is interested, so I will try to get a full report from Jason. Hope and Clayville Elementary School, the custodians are staging for the installation of the fire alarm project. At Hope, a designated shelter space is being prepared for our Hope Pond campers. They understand that we're in the middle of installation of a fire alarm system, so we cannot host the campers for full day camp, but we will not leave students out in thunderstorms, rainstorms, or issues like you had here in the area last week. So we will shelter them in severe weather. Cleaning and maintenance, carpet washing, tile scrubbing, and furniture cleaning are all in progress at both schools. The facilities department is managing a significant volume of work across all the schools, and they continue to meet every challenge, ensuring that our schools will be ready to welcome students and staff this fall. I was notified that we will have to close the offices at Clayville and potentially at Hope for the fire alarm installation. We will put that information when I have dates on the website. We will also put it on our phone system. I will work out a plan as to where central office staff will be working from and how we will be reached. So as I get more specifics about the timeline around when the office has to be closed for this fire alarm work. I will be sure to share that with parents and the community. One other item that was not listed on my superintendent's report, but I feel like it's critical to speak to the committee and the community about is federal funding. As you are well aware, we receive quite a bit of federal funding in the form of Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. We have been informed that Title II, 3, and 4, and this is the commissioner's word, not mine, is on pause. And that there is no date as to when that pause will be lifted. So the total amount of funds that we receive for Title II, 3, and 4 is $62,000. When we dug deep into all of those funds this week, our Title I funds last year were about $80,000. This year, we are projecting $150,000. So it looks like the $62,000 that they cut from 2, 3, and 4 got shifted up to Title I. So having said that, you think, okay, we're all good, right? We're not necessarily all good because we have annually carried about $80,000 over from year to year in those grant funds. We use those funds to support salaries in Title I. We do not have that $80,000 carryover. So we've already submitted one amendment that moved what we were projecting to be Title II, 3, 4 money up to Title I. Now that that money is on pause, we have to, at some point in time in the near future, we will have to re-amend that grant, that CRP application. And instead of being able to fund 1.5 positions in the title school, it will revert to 1.1. So that additional 0.4 will have to be shifted to local funds at this point in time. Now, should some miracle, and I pray for them a lot, come about and we get that $62,000 reinstated, then we will amend that again and put that back into the Title I salary line and fund 1.5. So right now, it's a little bit of a shell game, but I am, based on all of the information and conversations we've had with the commissioner, today I'm not hopeful that those funds will be restored. I am not hopeful. So that's an update on what I know about federal funding as of today. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for the superintendent?
Lori, I have a question regarding the elementary school enrollment. Just for clarity, the totals were based on July 1st, not on July 8th. So
I gave you July 1 and I
Right.
gave you today, July 8th. I gave you both numbers.
right, but the totals are that you read
Yeah,
off
the-
of 159.
Yes, on the bottom.
Those are
Yes.
July 1st.
July
not
1.
July-
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted
Correct.
clarity for everyone that
Yes,
it's
July
actually,
1.
Hope is actually up to 163 from
Yes.
159. Okay,
Yes.
just for clarity for everyone.
That's correct.
Now that I've got my numbers. One question. The person that got sent to North Situate that had put in, that showed up to North Situate's meeting, the parents showed up and they wanted their kid to go back to Hope. Are they getting approved to come back to Hope? Do they still want that?
So I cannot talk to you about other people's children, particularly in public. I can tell you this. If a parent puts a request into me, for a student to be placed at a particular building, if there is room in that building and in that classroom, I honor that request.
Okay. Um, and secondly, those numbers are those that were up there. Are those factoring in any of those kids that were asked to possibly switch to another school?
Those are the registered numbers in Power School today.
For the like the imaginary lines of where each school is designated. I only ask because I know somebody that was asked to, if they needed to, were they willing to switch to be sent to another school?
Those are the registered
All right.
students in each building.
Okay. Thank you.
If no more further questions, we'll go on to the Director of Finance.
So it's my favorite time of year where I'm in two budgets at once. I have a lot to say, but I will just hit the nuggets that we need to go through for this budget to actual. I'm going to draw your attention to revenue first. You'll notice the tuition line is up. Johnston owed us for a quarter. That was in dispute. We won. We had projected 10 additional students in FY 2025 to our 55 students, totaling 65, and we ended up with 62, 64 students throughout the year. However, the rest of the increase is attributed to free and reduced lunch CTE students increasing due to direct certification changes this year. That just means we receive more from the town the student is coming from for these students. Also, rates went up post-budget per town post-budgeting season. Next, I'll use Johnston as a control just because we have a lot of students here from Johnston. In FY 24, the combined state and per pupil for CTE students was $15,802, and in FY 25 was $16,257. The direct certified CTE students in FY 24 were $18,115, and in FY 25, they're $18,749. So you can see that extra cash coming in. State aid was projected for FY 2025 at $3,613,934 based on the governor's recommended aid number, and the enacted aid number was $3,690,304, giving us around $76,370 in revenue. That's extra. And just to touch on Medicaid quickly, since the BTA had been calculated, we have good news. You know, this is a living active document, so it changes second by second, I like to say. We had 2 additional deposits that were not anticipated since they were based on administrative coding uploads and are somewhat unpredictable due to Relay, our Medicaid provider, being delayed in those uploads. These 2 new deposits bring our Medicaid revenue to $90,147 versus the $84,062 you'll see on the budget to actual. So it's another $6,084.94, but every penny counts. And this is a good time to remind you all that all the numbers are subject to change as we get receivables, payables, accruals, that may change the bottom line. Now the nuggets in the expense lines. Health and medical premiums were budgeted at a conservative 3% increase when we received a range of 3 to 7.5%, with a recommended 4% from our consortium. We did budget at 3% last year due to budget constraints, and this explains the variance that you'll see in that line. The transportation line, buses regular late midday cost approximately $1,153,920. Statewide was approximately $318,193, and we have a payable incoming around $36K and approximately $307,784 in first student special ed transportation costs. Athletics transportation was around $61K. So you'll see that line is over budget as well. Outgoing CTE, we had 3 additional students outgoing than anticipated. We had budgeted for 37 and we had 40. As presented, there was a mini surplus of approximately $312. As discussed, we did have additional revenue in Medicaid. However, several payables, and I'll give you some examples, TMS, statewide, and DCYF, we're still waiting on. So still on the docket. With all that noted, as well as the closing out of all the grants and reconciling those numbers, I still am projecting a relatively small surplus in the ending budget. But I did want to mention again, it's a live moving document. That's all I have.
And I would just like to add that increase in revenue in the budget, the governor's adopted budget of 76, I would ask the committee to consider holding that as a potential cover for the 62,000 in federal funds that are on pause, maybe permanently, right? So that may cover that that withdrawal of funds from the federal grant money.
Any other questions from the school committee? Thank you for the report.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's Jenna again. Hi. I realize I'm a little late on this question. When are we redistricting? I think the slide that Lori led with clearly shows that we need to redistrict. I would like to ask formally that it be put on next month's agenda. I know it's going to be a long process, not expecting it to be done this year, but I believe this is maybe the 14th time we've asked for redistricting, right? We've asked every committee meeting since last year, and I think we've heard it will take too long. And now we're 14 months later. I think we've heard it'll be too much money. I don't remember all the excuses, but I'd like to formally request it be on the next agenda.
Thank you. No other questions about the budget?
Hi, Alexis Wilson, 888 Chalmers Hill Road. I'd also like to second that be on the next agenda. We have abundance of space at Hope, and it seems like the parents would really like for those classrooms to stay open. Meanwhile, Clayville is kind of bursting at the seams, and I think that it would be a really good way to help everybody out and kind of get what they want. That's it.
If that's it for the budget report, now we can move on to new business. And that brings us to the appointment of James Balsamo for the building committee. I spoke with Ray Greglovich, who is the chair of the building committee, and I you know, asked Mr. Greglovich if it was a concern about having a quorum, because the bigger these committees are, sometimes the more difficult it is to have a quorum. But he felt that this addition would be really helpful and that he had no concerns about getting a quorum to get the work done. Does anyone from the school committee have any questions or concerns about this applicant for joining the building committee? Hearing none, do I have a motion to appoint James Balsamo to the building committee? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next is to talk about the preschool tuition.
I asked that this be put on the agenda. As the committee and the community is aware, our preschool classroom at Clayville has just completed the Bright Stars accreditation, and they've done extremely well, earning a 5-star designation for that program, which caused me to begin to take a look at our program and how it's run. And in doing some preliminary digging, and this conversation is simply around tuition rates for typicals, models that attend those preschool programs. Our programs are integrated programs, so they are programs that supply preschool experiences for 3 and 4-year-old students who have IEP needs, and we are required by law to provide those services and experiences. But we also offer those preschool classroom slots to what we call typicals. So they have role models in those classrooms. Scituate charges $75 a year for a typical student to attend our preschool program for the year. So I thought I would try to see what other communities charge. You have the rates in your packet, but for comparison, North Providence charges $150 a month. Burrillville charges $225 per month. East Greenwich, $250 per month. Lincoln, $180 per month. Narragansett, $480 per month. Smithfield has half-day programs for their students, and they charge $150 a month. And for students who attend 3 days for 5 hours, it's $250 a month. So last year we took in $425 in revenue for our preschool program for 8 students that attend. I am recommending to school committee that we raise our tuition rates to $150 a month for the typicals so that we are in line and competitive with neighboring communities. That those funds go directly back into supporting that preschool classroom and program.
And did you say our program is a half a day?
It is a half-day
So that'd be
program.
150 per student for half day.
Correct. Additionally, in the future, we are going to take a deeper dive into our programming and our curriculum and really take a look at, are there any changes that we think that we can make? I would like to offer those slots to more students. We currently have 4 typicals in the morning and 5 typicals in the afternoon. But we know that preschool is the beginning of students' development and getting ready for kindergarten classroom. So it's critical. It's not just play anymore. It's critical. It's very hard work that they're doing there. So I'd like to take a deeper look at it and see if there are additional opportunities we can provide to the community and to 3 and 4-year-olds.
So the students that do the students that do attend children with IEP, do they attend the half sessions as well?
Correct.
Okay, and so there's and are they both there 5 days a week?
Yes, right, Lori? I think, no?
I don't know who we're
Okay,
looking at.
that's
I know, right? I know. I heard something now.
I went through it.
yeah, sure.
So as long as nothing has changed, when Chase was 3 and got into the program, he did 3 days a week, the half days in the morning, and then because he started at 3 from early intervention, the following his birthday's in April. The rest of that school year, he did 3 days. When he turned 4, he did 4 days after his IEP meeting, and by the time his second complete full year, he was up to 5 days, getting him ready for kindergarten.
Okay.
So depending on when they come into the system, and where their birthday falls, they slowly add them in instead of just throwing them in for 5 days.
Which is kind of the standard for any
Yes.
preschool, right? Like most
Yes.
start very, any like, and that would be my question, I guess, like, so. Sure, no, and I guess for the kids with IEPs, it should be driven by, obviously, by age, by need, and a team decision. I'm talking about more of the children that are coming as the role model students.
And I would like to look at that.
Yeah.
What is the frequency? What
I'm-
makes sense?
I'm pretty sure they're there for 5 days. The regulars, the typicals.
I don't know what the best terminology is. I don't like either of.
Oh, all the friends, community peers. Yeah. All of that,
Studies.
all of those kids were there 5 days, unless their parents chose for them not to be.
Okay, and that's something obviously we can explore and
Exactly.
the tuition obviously
What makes
is
sense.
very low comparative to what, what is a going rate. I get it. And I absolutely 1000% agree with that. Any monies that are, we need to have typical students to run our program. So any monies that are brought in from that program, however we can recycle those back into that program, I think is phenomenal.
I know that there is work that needs to be done around outdoor learning spaces, used to be called playgrounds. So clearly, if there is $425 not gonna
No, but
do anything for us, but if that revenue were increased, there may be a pot of money that we could begin to work on some of those things that the program would like in order to continue on the path of improvement.
And
Lori,
these students are also helping, it's not like we're looking at, obviously, and I'm not suggesting that you're saying it as a revenue stream, but it's
No.
like, it also helps the program and it's very beneficial, so.
Those figures, as I understand it, continue to be much lower than like private preschool costs
Oh.
also.
Lori, I have a question. When you looked at the other towns, did you compare everything that we are doing compared to what they're offering in there? I know it's every other school that you listed is by month, we're by year, and obviously it's a substantial difference. So what do they include? Are they half days, full days? Are we busing? I'm not sure on that. Okay, so we're including busing.
Just for special needs kids, not for typicals. I do not believe we are.
No.
Right.
So did you do a comparison of the other schools
did.
of that?
I did not do all that deep digging as of the yet, Colleen. I think when we begin to look at the program as a whole, those are all the kinds of questions we're gonna really want to take a look at.
I would think at this point, have children already been selected for the next year, for this coming school year?
We have families that have applied, and yes,
So I just think in fairness, I don't know how we want to implement this change in pricing. Like if somebody's child is signed up and they said it was $75 a year, I don't know that it's fair in July to say, oh, by the way, if they haven't already, for lack of a better word, contracted or know a price.
we have not told them what the tuition is for
Okay,
this year.
I just want to be fair about,
Because I knew I was bringing this
Okay.
to school committee, so they have been told that the tuition rates have not been set.
Yes, we have to go up there so people at home can.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Per Ashley,
I mean, still name and
Redmond.
address, if
I'm
we all
sorry.
know who you are.
Lori Boudiette. I don't live in town. Can I say that?
You can say Clayville Principal.
Clayville principal. Ashley Redmond said all role model students are 5 days a week, either in the morning or in the afternoon, and all IEP students are 5 days a week, with the exception of one who is 3 days a week.
It worked.
Stephanie Robinson, 673 Hope Furnace. I just have a question about how this might impact low-income families in Scituate.
No. Right. So, I did not, take into consideration that, but what I'm used to is a sliding scale. So I would think that, again, we would look at some neighboring, communities and what sliding scale do they use based on, income. Because we certainly don't want to penalize, families that may be financially struggling with that fee structure.
Hi, Alexis Wilson, parent of an incoming preschool student. I just want to know, first off, shouldn't this be something that was part of the memo? I know it said that tuition wasn't decided. However, to go from $75, which is what we've heard from other parents in the district, to, oh, $150 a month is what, double? I got my degree in letters. I don't know math. And also, there's one preschool room. It's a lottery system. If you're going to raise tuition to get revenue, then that means that eventually you might be able to open up a second preschool, right? To continue off of that with low income families, that's just another bill, $150 a month. Things are raising exponentially. I don't think that's fair, especially because it's a public school classroom in a public school. So if my taxes are already paying for public education, why do I have to add more money to something that is supposed to be provided to all children?
So if I can jump on that. So I think first and foremost, none of these fee increases are to generate revenue. And certainly nothing at that level is going to be enough to.
She just said it would, sorry, not to interrupt, but she just said it would bring in $425 and we brought in $425 in revenue for the preschool last year.
So again, it's going to increase from that. Those monies, like the superintendent said, maybe go to playground equipment. We're not looking at implementing expanding a preschool program on the backs of preschool parents. That's not even the money that we're talking about doesn't even cover the expenses, nor will it help us to expand. I think a very good point was brought up about folks that are low income, that there should be a sliding scale. Again, it's based on a lottery system. This is not there are communities out there, and you've probably read it in the paper, that were afforded lots and lots of money to enhance their preschool programs. Preschool is not mandated. We're mandated to provide preschool services to children that have special needs. There is zero cost for those kids, and that will never change. That's not something. The more kids that we can include, the goal of this program is to enhance the experience for our children, to prepare them for kindergarten, and particularly the children that have IEPs or have been screened to have some form of need. So we don't have the capacity in Scituate to have we'd love to, I think, if we can expand the program, but it's not going to be at, the revenues coming in are not going to help us have, a full day program.
So then why increase that $75 to $150?
So I think the recommendation from the superintendent was based on looking at like districts. I don't know where that $75 came from. I think it's a fair point that I would also venture to guess if we picked the lowest rate out of any of the surrounding areas. And I don't know if it's going to be 3 days or 5 days. It's been a long time since my kids were in preschool, but that is far below the going rate. Again, if we had discussed prices with parents and already said it, I think that would have been part of the process for this year. If that hasn't happened, I don't think it's unfair to let them know that the tuition has changed.
Okay, because I know for a fact that around here, I believe Scituate Early Learning, I don't have my notes on me right now, for full days, I mean, I looked at multiple places around the state. Between here and East Providence, 5 full days is anywhere between $400 and $600 a week. A week. Yeah. No, I know. But just to put it out there that to kind of bring this fee increase at this meeting without also sending it to the parents who do have incoming preschool students, to let them know why, and also to discuss this fee because it is a Bright Star school, which is fantastic. I don't think that's fair. Because I'm sure if more people had known that this was the proposed fee, more preschool parents would have come in. That's all.
Stan, you think that if
I was told $75 for the year. So for it to go from $75 to $150 in the span of a year, that's what, double?
No, it's more than double, because
Yes.
what we're talking about is $150 a month.
Yep.
which is still greatly reduced from what the going rate out there is. But you just closed with saying you thought that if you think that if parents knew it was going to be $150 a month,
If they knew that there would be an increase, especially because it's already so hard to get into the preschool program because it is a lottery system, I think preschool parents would like to know beforehand, before this change is even brought up. Like in the letter that is sent home when your child gets in, it should have been there is a fee. We are currently undergoing discussions as to what that fee will be for the upcoming academic year.
So the letter that you received said it was going to be $75 a year?
I honestly, ADHD brain, probably not. From my interactions with their parents as someone who has a preschool kid going into preschool asking, so what's the deal? How does that work? It's half days, full days, what is it? They let me know the fee was $75.
I can't put out to parents a notice with a proposed fee until I bring it to school committee and get school committee approval. That's why we're here tonight. School committee could say to me, no, Lori, we're not gonna follow that recommendation of yours. And then we will send the letters out by the end of the week that say the rate is $75 a year. It will remain the same. If school committee supports my recommendation, then we will draft the letter explaining the new process to parents. But I can't do that until I presented it to school committee and got approval.
Any other discussion? No one at home? Do I have a motion from a school committee member to approve the preschool tuition to include a sliding scale? Although we don't know what that sliding scale is.
No, but I will get the sliding scales from a number of other communities to ensure that we construct one that is equitable.
Hearing no motion,
I make a motion to approve I make a motion to approve the preschool tuition.
Second.
to include the sliding scale.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next on the agenda is the budget adjustment to reflect the additional revenue appropriated at the town meeting. This item is on the agenda as a result of, as we know, 190,000 put back into our budget at the financial town meeting. I'm sure most people here know that the only thing voted officially at the FTM was the money and not how it is spent. As one school committee member, I'd like to put forward a proposal just for discussion, to get the discussion started. I propose that we hold this money aside for unforeseen circumstances and expenditures. Like, for example, we have already seen the kindergarten numbers going up. And I can see that I am just one person, but I do support lower class sizes for kindergarten. And if it looks like we need to add another kindergarten teacher, and as we know, these numbers are constantly changing, that would be an example of where this money could go to. But I'd like to hear from other school committee members on their thoughts. I'm just getting the conversation started.
I also, after Lori's report of also telling us about the commissioner, putting a pause on the federal money, I think it's smart to hold money aside. We don't know what else is coming down the pike. And also the numbers too. So I am in agreement of putting the money aside for now.
I'm not in agreement with putting the money aside. I think the folks of the town spoke and they wanted monies allocated. It is a people's meeting. To allocate money just to hold, I think is a direct violation of what the will of the people is. I know you just spoke to the change in kindergarten numbers. If my understanding is correct, the budget that was passed has sufficient money prior to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Lori or Stephanie. We have, the kindergarten numbers are changing. The budget that we passed, that this committee passed, even prior to reductions, following reductions rather, has 2 kindergarten classes at Hope Elementary. Am I correct in saying that? So I don't know where you're talking about they need a whole nother kindergarten teacher.
So
That's
that's what I mean. Oh, no,
it's in the budget.
No,
it is not.
no, it's not.
It's not, that was one of the.
It's not.
It wasn't.
The original budget that was presented to school committee had 2 kindergarten teachers in it. One was a new proposed position that I put in the budget. When the town council cut the 190, we removed that K position. So you have one budget that we presented to you prior to the 190 that had 2 kindergarten positions in it. And you have one budget that's been presented to you after the 190 cut that has 1 kindergarten position.
So let's just talk about this for 1 second, just so I'm clear, because obviously I wasn't. So let's talk before the cuts. There were 2 kindergarten teachers.
Correct.
There were how many?
And a math coach.
So
Correct.
so 2 kindergartens, a math coach, and a 1K.
2K, 2Ks. The addition of 1K and the addition of a math coach and no change to the secondary classroom.
Okay, and then the
secondary budget took out the kindergarten, kept the math coach.
And got second.
So the numbers that we, and I know the numbers are constantly changing, the numbers that we have at this point in time, and I don't know if I didn't write it, I have them on my phone, Laura, I can pull it up. Are at kindergarten at Hope right now. Thank you. Okay.
That's.
Mhm. So the savings of 190 came at the expense of a kindergarten teacher. And the math coach remained. And the
Grade 2 teacher
okay. And our numbers for second.
was removed.
They remain at 21.
Okay. So 26 kids in a kindergarten. I mean, I can speak directly to 26 kids in a kindergarten class. So,
Right. I don't think anyone's arguing that, but we do know that the numbers will continue to change. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down. It's been explained to me that especially in Hope with more rental properties, it's more likely to go down than up at times, but maybe not. But I do know that we want to make sure we have exact numbers before making the decision. And now we have this cushion to be able to do that. And I do think that we are going to have, enough for 2 classes in Hope. It looks like it. We have 16 already in Clayville. I just said, just as one school committee member, I do support small kindergarten classes.
So just
I
for
just don't know if
clarity,
we
if we're
can-
saying we're holding money, are we not right now discussing the fact that we need 2 kindergarten teachers in Hope, which is that money would be going, the money we're holding is actually, we don't need to hold it. We need to spend it to get another kindergarten teacher.
Generally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, that we wait a little bit longer to make final decisions on kindergarten since it continues to change. Is that not how we've done it in the past?
Well, generally, we have all our staff in place before now, right? We haven't really been in this position, at least during my tenure. But we do have time between now and when school opens. You do have another school committee meeting, or you can call a special meeting if it's the will of the committee to make a final decision if you want to watch those numbers a little bit longer.
What did we, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but do we just have a kindergarten teacher floating around out there that we
No, we'll
pick them out of the air? But I
no,
mean,
we will have to
we-
advertise, interview. Yes,
That's what scares me. I mean,
that's correct.
personally, it's August. Yeah, we're August. There, people got in their positions already.
You will have to do that. Not you, us.
Make,
Right.
that could,
No,
I
that's
just want
not
people at
true,
home to hear
Becca.
you.
We post them simultaneously,
So it'll be posted simultaneously to in-house and
external.
and
Yeah.
external at the same time.
Yes, we do. Correct. Can't interview until the posting is closed.
10 days. You can advertise, but you just can't select or interview for the first 10 days of internal posting. Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Last year, Lori, were we, and I recognize you, I see you. Um, I thought we waited later on to see where the numbers fell because they constantly changed. Am I not remembering that correctly?
Yeah, no, we had all that, sorry, we had all our staff because, the FTM was earlier. So we had our budget. I knew exactly, and I recalled all staff by, Heather probably remembers better than I do, somewhere between end of April, maybe that first meeting in May. But one, yeah, we had one straggler that I couldn't, but everybody else on that non-renewal list we brought back.
Because the numbers were such that we knew how many
Well, we knew, yeah,
kindergarten classes we're gonna have.
yeah, we knew.
I'm just gonna wait to hear from school committee members first. Anyone else in school committee wanna chime in? About kindergarten?
There we go. Okay. Michaela Driscoll, 3 Burnt Hill Road. I just want to say first off, thank you, Ms. Pendercast, for your support and your vote at the financial town meeting in support of us and the parents and the students here in the town. So I just want to thank, and I know Ms. O'Leary as well. So thank you for that. I would like to say from just a comment, Ms. McCormick, that you made that I kind of find a little offensive to say that the Hope, because there's a lot of renters there, the numbers fluctuate. And I think that was a little offensive to those of us that live in Hope. I just don't think that comment was, maybe myself, I was thinking myself, well received. So just to make that out there.
Can I was not my intent. I'm sorry I offended you. It was something that was brought to my attention in terms of causing more fluid enrollment. So it was not my intent to offend. So sorry
Thank you.
for that.
I mean, my career has been in law enforcement, not education. But as a parent, I would think as if I register my student for kindergarten, I'm not going to unregister my student. I understand you move from the town, that's one thing, right? But I've just registered. I would think that we can all pretty much say, if you registered your student for kindergarten, you're sending your child, unless some unforeseen circumstance, to that school come August 20, whatever it is this year. So if we currently have 26 enrolled in Hope, that would have the 2 classrooms. So why would we consider saving that money, but yet we need to have that other Hope classroom, that kindergarten classroom? The numbers are as today, 12:30, 26 students. So why wouldn't we, why wouldn't the committee vote as the taxpayers, as we said, and completely understand, I was the person that put forth that motion. I understand it's the will of the committee, but it was the will of the taxpayers for that money to go to those positions. And to also keep the second grade classroom currently as it was originally budgeted to those two Hope classrooms. So if we have 26, again, the numbers speak for themselves to make sense to reopen that classroom. And I think to the point of hiring this teacher, we're already at July 8th, right? You know, I mean, how many other, we want to get good quality educators to come to our town. And if we keep closing these classrooms, we're losing the great educators that we already have here. So that's not incentive for a teacher to come and say, hey, you know, I'll take a job, but knowing next year, because I'm the low man on the totem pole, I'm going to lose my job again because we keep cutting classrooms. That's not fair to get educators to come to our town. So I think, again, as it was stated at the financial town meeting and the numbers being what they are, that kindergarten classroom at Hope has to be opened. The second classroom has to be open. Thank you.
Matthew Allen, 159 Hope Furnace Road. I was at the Clayville meeting when Lori had said that Clayville had 8 kids in May was that meeting. And they've already grown with 5 more. And what was also pointed out that Clayville and North Scituate does have housing being built. My thought is they don't want to be overrun. We need the classrooms. Again, we had already said to send some of their kids to take off of North Scituate. That may be the fine line. I know budgets and all of that, but if they're going to keep building on those 2 areas, it does make sense to send them more towards us instead of having 25 kids, 24 kids, and where they get mad at us because we want it's not that we want 13 kids. We just want to hold the kids that are in our neighborhood in our neighborhood. And I feel like when it was brought up at the meeting, at the financial meeting, that we just want to keep our classrooms small, it's not fair for them to be like, yeah, that's what we want. Everybody wants a small classroom. But it's more about keeping our kids with the kids that they hang out with, the kids that they see, and keeping our classrooms where they are and not over stuffing the other 2 schools to just because we need to cut a job. When it's 2 now, then it's 4, then it's 6, and then whereas Clayville is down to 1 classroom per grade, that's what we're going to be, and then where do we send them? So I just want to say that's where our goal was, is to keep the kids in our neighborhood and stop overstuffing the other schools. Because one, it makes us look like we don't, like we want our kids. We're not trying to overstuff them. We don't want them to not succeed on their end just because they've got room. You know, we talked about, oh, well, eight kids at Clayville, we'll just send the 31 at the time was going to Hope. And they're like, oh, the overflow would just go to the other 2 schools. And again, you're stuffing other schools when they could have a small classroom and we could just keep our classrooms.
That was, the May was 31 kids in the kindergarten class?
Designated for Hope with 8 going to
Now it's 20.
Clayville.
Or now it's 26, right? So it went to 20 July 1st and now 26, is that right?
I don't think so, Lori.
Yes,
Well, that's why I asked.
my recall, it was 21 at the financial town meeting, and it's now 26. It was,
Yeah.
it's July 1st, it was 22, and now it's 26.
Yeah, that wasn't what was discussed at May, though.
We were told 31, and that's what, we were told 31 in May.
31 and 8.
Yeah.
And I don't remember North Scituate, sorry.
I don't know what 31 is.
That was the
31 was the number that was brought out for the Clayville meeting. Yes, I'm that's what it
The
was.
point is that it moves.
That is the point.
Yeah.
Their kindergartners.
Yeah.
and One who opted to send their child to Princeton instead, so that's where those other five are.
Okay.
would be like, well, they were originally on our list, but then as we've made phone calls to register, we got that information from parents.
Right, these are registrations.
It goes back to the point where I brought up earlier. I know somebody who lives on my road that is designated for Hope, but with the potential of um cutting that kindergarten or not adding that kindergarten class. They were asked about moving like schools.
So any parents that have contacted me to have discussions, or parents that have contacted me to have discussions about potential placements of their kids other than Hope, not knowing what is gonna happen, my suggestion to them is to not make any decisions until after tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
And when they have the information at hand about how many kindergarten classrooms we will have there and what their options are. And then I'm happy to have additional conversations with them if they'd like, but they really should wait to see what school committee's final decisions were this evening.
All right.
Jenna Farina, 18 Mountain Laurel Lane. I just have a question. What is the max per classroom contractually? 22 plus 3. So what is, okay, so what does that mean for kindergarten?
It's not 22 plus 3.
So it's 22. So then we pay overages to that teacher who then has 26 kids in their class?
I don't think they.
There are contractual obligations that I don't have the contract in front of me. But there are contractual obligations regarding maximum class size, and it goes, if I remember right, it's different between K1 and then there are stipulations that at a certain point, you need to have a full-time paraprofessional in the classroom. And there are points of, and I believe it's not at K and 1, but if we are at a certain point, teachers would receive overage pay. I don't know if that's the right word. It's nothing comparative to, say, opening another class. And I believe, I don't want to speak to the contract language. That's all I'm going to say. Did you know, I mean, I know I just don't have.
Okay, I teach high school. Life skills special ed, and I could not imagine having a class filled with 26 kindergartners who I am responsible to teach them read. And then later our state's test scores come down to, well, these kids didn't get a good foundation. So I think.
Yeah, I don't think we're suggesting 26 kids in a classroom.
Okay, what's the number at Hope? 20. 26, it is a number. It's 26 right now.
Yeah.
So I think opening that classroom is a necessity.
Yes, it's just it's a conversation, and we don't know if that number's going to stay. I hope it does. I hope it gets bigger myself. In the past, I'm not saying now, but in the past, especially last year, we've also looked at other seats. It looks like Clayville has filled up. I'm surprised, when I saw this, prior to 20 minutes ago, I thought there were only 13 students at Clayville. So I'm thinking, well, if we need to move students, which is what was asked by the parents last year, to make the Hope classes smaller or make the class sizes more equal within the district. Sometimes we look at the seats town-wise. So if there's extra seats in other schools, then we make things more equal. But that doesn't seem to be panning out this year as of this moment.
And then what does that do for us? We pay for busing for those students to then go to a different, if you're moving them from Hope to Clayville, we're paying for that bus.
Oh, well, a bus would already be going in that direction, but that's a whole other conversation. We're not even there yet. Not even there yet.
Okay.
But to answer your question, if we're requesting, if a parent makes a request to send their child to another school, we do not bus. If we are moving, we absolutely are paying for their transportation. Again, are we going to try and get them on a route that's closer? Yes, but does that always happen? But yes, we bear the responsibility. Sorry, it is, okay. My name is Nicole Colabella. I live on Howard Avenue. I have two kids in Hope School, and I just wanted to advocate for the second classroom. I have a chart here of the numbers I was looking at, but they're from what you posted earlier, Lori. I'm sorry, they're not up to date with today. But when I was looking at this earlier today, the second grade had the highest number of kids average per rooms out of all of the elementary schools. And I can just quickly tell you, I got this as Hope has 21 students with one classroom, Clayville 25 with one classroom, and North Scituate 40 with two classrooms. So let me know if those numbers are off, which if we keep just the 4 rooms, that averages 21.5 students per classroom, which is the largest classroom out of all of K through 5, according to the numbers that I was looking at. Opening that up to 5 classrooms would make the average 17.2. But I understand this isn't like black and white and not all of the students enrolled can just be redistricted. But I just wanted to put it out there that I see that would be a huge benefit to these students to be able to keep that classroom open. My daughter is currently in that first grade bubble class going into this second grade and was in a small kindergarten class, moved to a large first grade class, and then I would just love the opportunity for her to go back to the smaller second grade class. And just to be clear, I would love all 3 classrooms to be open for 2, as it was when I first enrolled my son into this school. But I know we have to work within the realities of the budget. So I just wanted to put that out there that I would love this school committee to consider keeping that second classroom open at Hope. Thank you.
And there's currently 21 students enrolled in that, correct, Lori?
21 in grade 2 at Hope.
So you spoke about equality amongst the 3 schools. What about equity? So I know that in our last year, what was first grade, this year, which is second grade, there were quite a few IEPs. What does that look like at North Scituate and Clayville? The numbers of students that have an IEP in each classroom.
I don't have
I
that information or what type of IEPs those are.
Stephanie Robinson, 673 Hope Furnace.
So just,
I think that's an important thing to take into consideration when you're talking about equality versus equity amongst these second grade classrooms.
I do seem to recall, and Lori may be able to correct me, that it seemed quite equitable last year, and I can only imagine it hasn't changed. But I remember having a discussion to looking at how many IEPs and 504s were across the other grades in other schools, and I remember feeling, all right, it's pretty much on par.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but I don't remember having any conversations where there were grave inequities across the district, but we will pull that data tomorrow and certainly look at it.
So I just want a point of clarification. A member in our viewing audience sent to me from the contract, kindergarten classes may not be higher than 22 students, provided, however, the committee may add up to 3 additional pupils. Now, this is just what's contractual. I'm not saying this is what practice is or what we're doing, but the committee may add up to 3 additional pupils beyond the maximum and compensate the teacher in accordance with paragraph 8 below. If class size exceeds 22 students, a full-time paraprofessional will be assigned for the classroom. So that's what the contractual number is. So at 26, there's nothing this committee could do anyway. It doesn't make a difference. That would exceed what is contractually allowed. And again, those are the maximums. So thank you to my viewing audience, our viewing audience.
Am I on?
Yep.
Okay. Mary Manning Morse, North Road, in Hope. I've aged out, but all 4 of my children attended Hope School. It is near and dear to my heart. But Colleen, you provide me with a great segue into my concern. First of all, I want to respect the voice of all the parents who are here and strongly advocating for their children. That is your job. And I'm just so thrilled to see the number of people turning out. But I'm a taxpayer in town and concerned with where my taxes are headed. And I'd like to see a fiscally responsible school department budget, since the school department budget is, as we know, the largest chunk of our town budget. I have strong concerns that the use of the $190,000 to support a second grade level class will have a long-term negative impact on the school department budget. I tend to look at things long-term. The discussions I'm hearing centered around this second grade level class seem to be focused on this next school year. I know that ARPA funds, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I first became aware of this issue by attending the FTM. So I'm playing catch up with trying to get all my information squared away. ARPA funds were used to address the fallout of COVID on student learning, and were to be considered short-term, one-time interventions. And I believe that's what was used to support the second classroom. And absolutely. Okay. It was not, the ARPA funds were not used. All right, well, that's a piece of information. Thank you. As I said, I'm trying to come up to speed, and that was something that was told to me. That said, to continue maintaining 2 grade level classes, and here's a distinction. It's not the same as I'm hearing with the kindergarten, where you have exceeded the contractual number. This is a number of 21, which does not exceed the contractual number. So I'm just concerned it's going to open a Pandora box. Because if you look at this, it will set, I believe, a precedent. And from my years as an educator, there will be other district classrooms clamoring for the same arrangement. Can we afford that? One extra teacher, and this is a very rough guess, salary and benefits, I'm going to call it $80,000. If you have this clamoring for the same arrangement in other classrooms, 3 teachers are pushing $250,000. 2 more additional classrooms, less than the contractual language, who want the same arrangement as what is being asked for at Hope. Why shouldn't they be given that same opportunity? But it's going to come at a cost. So I just caution that precedents can turn into practice. Practices can end up on the negotiating table to be codified in a contract. And that can really, really impact the school department budget. And I'm concerned that it may not be affordable. Thank you for your time.
Matthew Allen, 159 Hope Ernest Road. I You guys all know that my son has an IEP. I think since you've missed, I know I'm supposed to be addressing, but I just want to give some information. It's not just 21 kids in the second grade class, well, first grade, now going into second grade. It's the IEPs that go with them, because they cannot divulge what somebody's IEP is. The teacher, however, who has the roster knows what everybody's IEP is, or 504. I'm no shy about my kid. My son has autism. He does have a para. It's a 2-to-1. So he shares it with another kid in this classroom. I do not know the other 5 IEPs or 504s that are in the classroom, what they entail. But my son, who is doing better than I thought with the structure of the para that is in place for this year, not saying last year's was bad, but there's a stronger push there, and years of Miss McCann's knowledge and negotiation skills that have helped him this year. You're not just talking about 21 regular kids in a classroom that are fourth graders or fifth graders that know how to use the system that is halfway through almost into middle school. This is the foundation with 21 kids with 7 IEPs and my son who stims that can set off another child that stims that could set off a distraction to the other kids that makes their education go down. And I said last year, I do not want to hinder anybody else's learning. I also want him to learn as much as everybody else. It's about what is fair to let the other kids learn as much as they can without being distracted by also giving him an education. So, just so you know, it's about other factors in play. It's not 21 numbers, 25 numbers. It's the different individuals in that classroom that is the reason why that it is like that. Just so you know.
I have been talking to many educators around the state, friends, and one of the things, and because I've been thinking a lot about this, and one of the conversations that comes up a lot is and I'm talking specifically about second grade now. So if we had a class size of 10, and what is too small, and then how is that sometimes, does that have an adverse effect? We even had a teacher from Hope stand up and say that there is a point to which a class size is too small, and said that, and was explaining to me that actually it was in one of our public meetings, that teachers don't desire to have class sizes of 10. I am curious, since we have our curriculum director here, about how the first grade did perform hypothetically, not hypothetically, actually. How did the Hope first grade perform compared to the other first grades? If that even provides us any information of, is 21 too much? Because again, from what I've heard and had long discussions with other educators, of which I am not, which is why I reach out, is there's other benefits to having more students in class, whether it's a social emotional, and you're learning so much in these schools, not just math, science, English, and history. You're learning how to be patient and be kind and to listen and take your turn and stand in line. So I will stop talking, if you don't mind. I was going to have the curriculum director just see if there's any information that's available for us to help us make this decision. Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Based on the one data point that we have, which is our screening Ames Web, we compared all of the schools with each other for kindergarten and grade one. We also looked historically at Hope specifically to see if over year, how has the progress changed. And truthfully, there is not a trend that I can say with certainty that lower class sizes led to more progress. This year, they were on par with their counterparts in other schools. So that's what I have for Amesweb. But again, I understand that there is more than one data point that does, but that's the only thing that I had to look.
So I just want to be clear.
Sure.
So, and you just know that off the top of your head, that's very.
I've done the work
Yeah,
before.
but specifically that, so that's one data point. So,
Yeah.
but as an educator, it's your belief that lower class size does not enhance the learning experience for children.
It's not only mine, I think research doesn't support it other than grades K and 1. The lower number, the better, just because of all of the other executive functioning skills that you're learning and not just math and ELA. But even the law says 15 is an optimal size for a kindergarten. That's all I have to say about. I mean, research doesn't support lower class size lead to better achievement.
There's nothing in research that says that lower class size. So why
Yeah.
are there contractual obligations that classes need to be a certain size? Why are there? So
It doesn't support.
beyond first grade, there's no correlation between class size and performance.
No, I think if you're looking at different factors, I think the one thing that we found out is that teachers collaborating with each other had a bigger impact on students' learning than actually class sizes.
So if, again, I'm just gonna, okay, that's an interesting point.
I could look for more if you'd like.
Hi, Michael. Hello. Yeah, good. Okay. Michael Smith, 241 Hope, 241 Hope Furnace Road. Um, Equity equality has been spoken about since last year. Actually, I think the first person who brought it up was Effie, who's not here today. She might be online. I don't know. Hi, Effie. Stephanie brought it up again tonight. I just want to remind everybody that we have 3 elementary schools. Hope is the only Title I school. And if anyone doesn't know what Title I means, it means we have less fortunate families. There are studies out there that says less fortunate families means there's less support at home, which means they need more support at school. So however you look at it, Hope needs the most support because they don't have the same support at the family level as they do at the other schools. So I just want to remind everybody again that it is the only Title I school. That is why we're fighting so hard too. It's not just because of our kids. My kid, this doesn't even matter for my son. My son's going into 3rd grade next year. He beat all of this stuff. I've been fighting for all this because I want him to have the same education, the same experience that my son had. I want these new kids to have that too. My son had a reading problem. They found it immediately because he had the small classroom. We had the resources. They don't have those resources when we overload our classrooms. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Being Title I, and we talked about Title I money, what extra resources does Hope have as a result of?
Mr. Smith, I agree with you 100%. And I do believe in equity, and I'm a fighter for struggling learners. And I know that maybe this is not the time to say that all of that, but I do want to say that equity does come in terms of different supports. And I think the whole idea behind Title I is to provide that. So with that being said, we do have our 1.5, as Superintendent Andrews talked about, was allocated. So every other school gets, let's say, one. Well, I can give you the numbers. Clayville has 1 interventionist. North Scituate, because they're a bigger school per pupil, they have 2. I hope we have 3. We also, because we're a Title I, we were able to write the grant for the math instructional coach. So our supports for identifying reading, all of those are there. And we hope to get it better because I, at least in my position, I want all of our schools to be five-star schools. And I believe that our kids can do it. And you are right about the support and all of those. So I'm hoping that we can kind of collectively think about ways that we can engage families more. And we tried doing that with a math engagement night. You guys are amazing. You've been at every meeting. So I hope that we can continue our collaboration, whatever the decision may be tonight, because we can do better.
I don't need to turn it off.
Hi, I'm Nicole Colabella, again, Howard Ave. I just had 3 quick points that I wanted to make around the 2nd grade in response to some things that have been said. And my first one, I might need some help and clarification on. I believe last year, and this, I could be wrong, but from what I remember, there were students in that 2nd grade class at Hope that ended up having to be moved to North Scituate due to space. Is that correct?
You mean the 1st grade class?
1st grade last year, I'm sorry, yes, that they ended up getting numbers large enough to warrant having to send some kids to North Scituate. And if that is the case, I just think that's something that we should consider in these numbers as well, because perhaps they could come back. Clayville is already maxed out at 25, so they can't get any more students anyway. And North Scituate having 20 per class is also fairly high. So just one thing to think about. Additionally, I think it's just a little bit more in this case from like larger classes to the smaller class, and something to consider also is going from having multiple classrooms to just a single classroom. So these kids are in the same class every single year all the way through the 5th grade. And I understand that Clayville has that setup as well, but I just don't think it's ideal. And if possible, I think there's so much benefit to having the 2 classes to just intermingle with other students every year and be able to separate bullying problems. So just to keep that in mind. And also right now with the numbers we're looking at, it looks like we were potentially having 2 kindergarten classes again. And if that trend continues, I wonder how expensive it is to every year be losing good quality teachers, knowing that when the next classes that have the 2 classrooms come up, we're going to need to refill them again. Thank you.
So I see people at home. I see Lisa. Just state your name and address, please.
Sure, can you hear me okay?
Hold on. Working on it.
Lisa.
There she goes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, so it's Lisa Storty. It's Stephen Hopkins Road. I just wanted to clarify a few things that I have as factual evidence. I do agree with what Mike Smith said about us being a Title I school and that our kids do deserve the very best education that we can provide, hence why we were the parents that attended the meeting and pushed for the $190,000 to help benefit the students at Hope, and most of the parents were there. With that being said, I just want to clarify from my factual standpoint that the students that were asked to attend other schools the past couple of years were not offered the opportunity to come back to their home schools. There is a family that lives directly across the street from Hope School, and they were flat out not given the opportunity to return. So now my question is, if there's no option for them to come back, because I asked the family specifically, is this now the child's home school going forward? What happens when the numbers become too high in North Scituate and they're forced to come back to Hope? Their social emotional well-being of each of those kids having to form new relationships with kids that they don't know. And as you and I know, the older you get, the harder it is to make friends. I moved to Scituate when I was going into 5th grade. And yes, the times were very different with kids back then, but to start and make new friends in 5th grade after being at a different school is not an easy challenge, especially nowadays with the way that the kids are. But I just want to know if parents were even given the choice, is that even something that you're even contemplating as an option for these parents where they could come back? Hence why we would probably have 2 first grades going forward. And as far as the social emotional well-being of these kids, I can tell you right now as a teacher myself, if these kids are constantly in the same class year after year after year, you're going to have ongoing social emotional well-being issues with all of these kids if they are to stay in the same class from kindergarten to grade 5 going forward. It's not going to be easy, and there are going to be a lot more problems on your plate keeping them in one classroom the entire time. I think put aside the number of IEPs, the district I work in, I've had 10 kids with IEPs in one classroom, which was half the class. So putting 5 second graders in one classroom is not that big of a deal in my eyes. But we're all talking about equity and, the equality of it. And I completely agree with that. But Hope is a great little place to be in. We moved here to put our kids in these smaller class sizes. But I think, too, the budget is one thing, but I think we need to do what's in the best interest of our kids and their education at the end of the day, not what we feel as being selfish or feeling that we shouldn't be able to give them what they came here to deserve. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with their hand raised? Okay. So at this point, glad I opened up the discussion. Is there anyone else that would like to bring forward a different proposal from the school committee?
Did you make a motion?
I did not.
Okay.
Nope. I did not.
So I guess a point, just while we're on this topic item. So I think there's been some confusion, and obviously maybe I don't understand properly. So at the town financial meeting, $190,000 was allocated, additional $190,000 was allocated to the school budget. Has that money been received on the town side, the school side of the budget? And how would that work, Stephanie? I know.
So it's in my FMIS system in Tyler as if it has, so I hate to put it this way, but we call it monopoly money in our Tyler system because we don't ever really
Right.
see it.
But those funds
So
are,
I always put the local appropriation as soon as,
so the local
available.
appropriation, your local appropriation listed in FMIS was based on the.
FTM vote.
Perfect, okay. So the money's there, and I get it, it's, they pay the bills, it
Right,
comes to
right,
us, we go,
so-
yeah, okay.
I have a question. Lori, do you recommend that we decide if we want two kindergarten classes now as opposed to waiting for the numbers to form more in order to get a kindergarten teacher? Because it was my understanding at one point in time at a conversation of that there was not so much of a worry. Actually, I think that there was not so much of a worry to wait until this meeting because there were still a lot of teachers that were available. But if we waited to the next meeting, is there a concern that the talent pool would be that much diminished? Does that make sense?
Yeah, clearly every week that goes by, the talent pool diminishes. People are gonna get jobs,
Is,
you know.
and is, we don't have anybody internally to take this at this time? Is this one of the pink slips?
So I don't know that we should get into the specifics of that as far as,
The
I think.
position would have to be posted.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Well, I wanted to know if it had to be posted.
So, but I think the reality is, the bottom line is, without talking about anybody specifically, that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the educators that we've called back at this point in time are assigned somewhere.
Correct.
They all have positions. We haven't
Correct.
lost anybody. Am I correct in saying that? Like, as far as, so even if it was an internal candidate that took this position, we
Their
would have to
position would
then.
have to be
Okay,
filled.
so that's.
Correct. I will say that, Stephanie has to get this budget completed into the FMIS system. She's got to do those, how many lines, Steph?
5,000 UCO lines.
So 5,000 UCOA lines, because the principals are waiting for their building budget so that they can begin to order their supplies and materials. All of this timeline has gotten pushed way to the right because the FTM is so much later now. So I understand this is a difficult decision for the committee to make, but if it's possible, I would ask you to make your decision tonight so that Stephanie can get this budget into the FMIS system and get the principals. It's gonna take her a week at a minimum. That's working all weekend. We need to get this budget in and get it to our principals if it's possible. Thank you.
Can I make a motion then?
Sure.
I motion that we approve for two kindergarten teachers in the Hope Elementary School.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I guess discussion would be, obviously, the addition of, what you're saying is you want the addition of one to be a total of two kindergarten teachers based on our current enrollment. So obviously that's not $190,000. You're right, and I know.
It's a need. They need it.
I get,
Yeah,
but
that's a lot of-
so I do understand that, I guess my question, and it's more of a clarifying question, is I don't disagree with that motion. I think the evidence presented tonight, even contractually, we'd far exceed what it would be that, and I absolutely believe the sooner that we are able to get a teacher hired and moving and going, the better it is for everybody involved. All those kids want to get your hi, my name is, or Mr. So-and-so is your teacher. So if we allocated that position, that obviously isn't the full amount. Does that still prevent you from moving forward? And I get we can hire a teacher or start the process. Does that prevent you from moving forward with getting your UCOA lines and 5,000 nuggets?
So that would be about, and this is rough numbers all in,
Yep.
about 122K. So that leaves us around 67,000. That, I mean, I could put in a UCOA.
Title one.
Is that 122 at a top step teacher?
It was at the,
Sorry.
We were using a reference of.
So, and just,
control
just to
that we
be, just for complete transparency, we know we don't pay our kindergarten teachers our $122,000 a year.
get. Benefits.
It's, yeah, it's just all in, but between all, so it's, and that's, yeah, okay.
Because I want the full cost.
Yeah, yeah, no, as do I. I just, and I know that, um, and again, I think we have an obligation to continue to watch those numbers. I'm going to say it as basic as I can, I guess. So if if we made the decision tonight to hire there is a gamble, right? Like say 10 kids dropped out, we're going to have 2 teachers, but I think that's a gamble based on we're making an educated guess at the latest possible time to move forward with those 2 teachers for that kindergarten position right now. Does everyone seem to be in agreement with that?
It's a gamble.
Yeah.
Again, I don't see that happening and I think we have to do something. I know
believe
it's,
last year we watched the numbers continually to go down. This year they're not doing that. Oh,
no,
up.
yep. So.
Here we watched them all go down.
So by adding that kindergarten position, that would allow us to start that process. I think part of the discussion is so that would be 2 kindergartens, 1, 1 and 1, 2, and then 2 of each in
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
And obviously if the numbers change, there are contractual obligations. If the numbers changed, for either the first grade or the second grade there, we have an obligation to support those to fill if it exceeded our contractual maximums.
Then I would have to come back to the committee, share those numbers and make a recommendation to add an additional staff person. We will never violate the teacher's contract.
No, nor am I advocating for that, teachers.
So we would come back, I would come back, share those numbers with you and have to make a recommendation.
So I would like to second the motion that is.
It already was.
Sorry.
We're in
For discussion.
Did it.
I have my.
Second and then discussion.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. Next item is about the RIDE memorandum of agreement for the 21st century technology and equipment. Do you want to speak to that, Lori?
Sure. This is money coming from the Rhode Island Department of Ed. It is a memorandum of agreement that we are requesting school committee sign so that we can obtain $191,141 so that it can be used to convert classroom space into a STEM classroom, upgrade existing CTE classrooms, create a new CTE classroom, create project-based learning maker spaces, modernize our science labs. Those are examples of the kind of work that can be done with this grant money out of RIDE. So we are requesting that you approve and sign this MOA so that we can get $191,141.
Is there any more questions for the superintendent before we take a vote? All right, do I have a motion to approve this memorandum?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next is discussion about the administrator's compensation criteria and protocol.
You have the criteria and protocol proposal in your packet for review. This is a requirement out that stems from the policy, the administrator's compensation policy. It requires that the superintendent develop a compensation protocol and criteria. The particular sections in this proposal, protocol and criteria proposal to you are outlined as part of the policy. So I won't read it to you, but there needed to be a market competitive review and then a salary comparison. And so you will see that I have done a comparison between Situate's administrative positions and salaries, and then looked at the Rhode Island. I used the median salary, and then the difference from that median for our individual positions. The communities that I used to compare our salaries to were Burrillville, Coventry, Exeter West Greenwich, Foster Gloucester, because that's the secondary piece of our neighbors. Gloucester, Narragansett, West Warwick, and then Erica asked me to then take a look at Tiverton, North Smithfield, and Portsmouth. So I added those in. I think I've double checked these numbers a few times. There may be an error or two in some of them. We will go through them again. When I added Tiverton, North Smithfield, and Portsmouth, it adjusted the median by a few dollars up. So we may be a couple dollars off in a couple of areas, but I think that I caught them all. So the salary comparison has been done and that is there for you. And then a roll-in, a salary roll-in adjustment. The two administrative, and I'm sorry, I'm getting tired, so there's a whole lot of ums in there. The two positions that are currently need salary adjustments based on the median are elementary school principals and the assistant principal at the high school, middle school. So our current elementary principal salary for the 24-25 school year is 96,810. The Rhode Island median salary is 113,780, making a difference of 16,971. I just noticed that my assistant principal, high school, middle school, that 25-26 base salary number is wrong. That should be 106, not 96,760. So the assistant principal at the high school, middle school, the base salary for 24-25 in Scituate is 96,760. The Rhode Island median salary is 112,667 with a difference of negative.
I thought you said that number was wrong.
The one
On the
above it,
next
the one
page.
above it.
Okay.
On the next
Yeah,
page.
sorry.
It was one of those
Yep,
places.
gotcha.
The difference from the median is 15,907. So the salary roll-in, you'll see, I tried to make a proposal to phase in from the current base salary of those two administrative categories over a 3-year period to get to the Rhode Island median.
The Rhode Island median of our comps, not
Of
for
our
the state.
right, exactly, of the communities that I was comparing to. And then you have compensation criteria increases, an annual minimum, advanced credentials and training, which currently administrators get ADI for advanced degrees, equity and exceptional performance. So there is a discretionary 0.5% increase that may be awarded by the superintendent for exceptional performance if the budget permits. And then annual Ride Star rating bonuses. So to incentivize school level improve student achievement, this proposal recommends a school with a 3-star rating, the principal get $500, 4 stars, 1,000, 5 stars, $1,500. That is a one-time, it is not added into the base or into retirement. And then I list the benefits as they are outlined in the policy and aligned to the current administrator contracts.
And on page 2, underneath the assistant principal for middle school, high school, the base salary was not adjusted to the 96,760. You have 100,760. I thought it was 96.
Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute. The base salary, so I'm going off the revised one, not the one that's on our packet, unless everyone got the revised one, Lori?
I think everyone has the revised one. I think I sent them the revised one.
On my original. Yeah, the base salary for 24-25 is 96,760. You have down here 100,000.
Yes. You're correct, Erica. Those were the two adjustments that didn't get made.
So do you have, so obviously this is just a presentation. Did you finish, Laura? Because I had a couple questions.
I am.
Okay, you have or haven't?
Yes.
Oh, so I did a little digging around on my own here, not pretty much everything basically from the RIDE website. The first thing I want to say is I think that, you know, our principals are the backbone of our district, and I am not opposed to, I want them to be compensated fairly, obviously. I think that, I guess my first question is, why are we just passed a budget? Were these raises or changes in salaries figured into our budget that started last week?
No.
So why are we doing this now?
I'm required by the new policy to write this protocol, compensation protocol, and all of those, as I explained, all of those elements are required as part of the policy to be in it.
Okay, so
that's what I've done.
Because I think it's fiscally irresponsible. And again, this is no direction towards any of our administrators, but like, how do we just pass a policy and then, oh, like, so what's the fiscal impact of this? If it was rolled out over 2 years, what are we looking at on an annual basis?
I haven't done that.
Okay, so that would need to be, I think, before any decision is made. I just don't think it's budget based. I mean, everything has to be based on a budget. The policy, and I think the policy, and I'll go back and review the policy. So I know we looked at comparable districts, and I just did some digging. So obviously some of the districts, and these are from RIDE's report card, Coventry 23, 24, over 4,000 students. They have elementary schools that have over 600 students. North Smithfield is 1,600 students in the district. They have one elementary. Is anyone disagreeing with this? Like,
no.
Okay, just so
I was trying to think of the
yeah. So again, it could be I did this super quick on my phone, but like, so North Smithfield has one elementary school. So it's 600 students. That is larger than all. So, and I don't know where that lies. Burrillville has 4 elementary schools, 300, 272, 315, 310. Coventry has 2 schools that are over 600 students. West Warwick's middle school population is greater than our whole population. So as far, I don't know where, and I get a principal is a principal is a principal. There's certain responsibilities that required whether you have 100 kids in the school or you have 600 kids in the school. I don't work, I'm not an educator. I'm not in education. I work in healthcare. I worked in skilled nursing facilities. I know that a lot of times your compensation is based on the size of the facility that you run. I think a lot of that is if we were looking at a bank, if we were looking at this, I don't know how that correlates in education. And then where in here is it that, you know, longevity? And I hate the word longevity. I know we're not supposed to use it, but and again, I cannot stress enough when I say this, that this is not based to any of our administrators. This is based on if we're establishing policies and practices. So if you are an elementary principal that has been in their position for 10 years, should they be making the same thing of somebody that has been an administrator for 2 years? Where does that factor in?
We don't, have a step, process. Erica and I had a lengthy conversation about this, today. We can certainly build that in. I know that typically in small districts with small numbers, because you're talking about elementary schools, really, because we've got 3. That's where the step would be built in. It wouldn't be at the high school because we got 1, middle school, you got 1.
But I guess maybe, again, I don't know how that works. Like if we're just putting a set amount to a position, if somebody, and again, this is nobody in particular, but somebody is at a position for, or someone comes in with 10 years experience as an assistant principal, are they paid the same thing as, me, who's a brand new administrator and this is my first job? Should there be, I hate, it feels like it's tying our hands to like, and I want equity, I want fairness, but
I have seen in other town charts where they have a range. So you've seen that too. So you have a range, I'm gonna make up the number.
Yeah, this is
1,120. And I agree with you, because I've had conversations about this, that I think we should have a range so that I personally don't think that a principal who has, I'm gonna exaggerate to make my point, 15 years of experience, 5-star school, make the same as an entry level principal who has never done it. I'm exaggerating.
No, yes.
In addition, I have had some concerns. I did also highlight what you mentioned about Coventry has more than 35,000 people in the town. Smithfield has more than 22,000. West Warwick has 31,000. And I also was questioning just the number of days principals work. I know that I've been told our principals work 216 days a year, where other principals may work 260 days a year, just to make sure we have the exact.
I don't know that how we can then compare.
We won't ever be able to do it perfectly.
I recognize that. But I don't know that our
Want to make it fair.
our formula, I don't know that our formula isn't flawed. And I think what a bigger concern to me is that how we can, first of all, we can't make any decisions or anything without, that would be, I think by law, we're mandated to, before there's any monetary gains, the committee needs to see a fiscal impact statement. That's right. But how do we're sitting here fighting for, keeping classrooms open and doing this. We had a town financial meeting. How do we, and I'm not a parent that was at that meeting that made the motion, but I can guess that the motion of the people was not to give principals raises. Do you know what I mean? That was not the intention of, we're not looking at additional money to give principals raises. We're in negotiations with teachers right now. How can we fiscally do this at this point in time?
I would need to have Stephanie come back to us and Lori come back to us, because I don't know. I know in the past we've hired someone to do curriculum work and we found $20,000 to pay.
We just squeezed that budget. I mean, we're like.
So my answer is, I don't know, but what I do know and what I really wanted to find out is our principals are underpaid. And as we pointed out last time, some of them get paid barely as much as our top step teachers. Some of our teachers get paid more than they do. So
You didn't know this before the budget cycle? Like this, I just don't understand how, I just think the optics
remember it happened at
of this are very bad. As we're partnering with the town and we're talking to tax people about raising their taxes, and then no sooner do we get money passed and, we want to give our, I just.
Because we didn't see the railroad, we didn't see the train running us over. It happened without us knowing that this had already happened. It came out at the last Clayville meeting that teachers are making, top step teachers are making as much, if not more than our principals. And I think we need to do something. How we're gonna do it, I don't have that solution. But I think this is a start to recognize that our principals need to be higher compensated.
I don't disagree, but I just think the way in which we do it is difficult.
I agree with that. And that's a separate conversation with Stephanie to see where money's come and go and things shift. Again, we have, what's the word where a higher step teacher leaves and a lower step teacher comes in, where we just had Caitlin Socio leave, and however much she made, so maybe there's savings there. I don't know, I'm not a finance person. The state gave us more, just hopefully they can find it, maybe we can do something. If it's not this scale, if it's not a 10,000 for the 4 positions, can we do 5,000? Just get the conversation started and recognize that our principals are terribly underpaid. And even by the time we catch up with this, let's say we're following this 3-year rollout, by the time we get to year 3, they're still gonna be underpaid because everyone else is gonna be playing catch up. So good questions, Colleen. I don't know. But I do know that this policy has not been followed. It was written in 2021. Not that old. To prevent this, which has now happened. Yeah, yes. Good.
Hello. Mary Lou Umbriano, 46 Waterman Drive, Scituate. I was on the school committee for 12 years here in Scituate. When we had a problem with the principals, we had some new teachers come in and they made more than some of our current principals that we had, the teachers did. We would compensate them because you can't change it now because you should have did this before you in your budget. But we would compensate them with either their degree or they would be given maybe 2,500 to their school that they could use in their budget for books or other things. We would try to compensate them in a different way than a paycheck because you can't change their paycheck. But you can make them feel better by giving them something towards their school. Or you can give them a week's vacation. You can sit and negotiate with them and come up with something and then you present it to the committee and you can do it that way. So it's just one way you can look at this.
Question for you. Are you compensating the principals or compensating the teachers? Who are you
You're talking
compensating?
about your principals are not making
Yeah,
as much
okay.
as your teachers.
That's what I just want clarity.
And that's something that the superintendent should be watching. Because Paul and Larry would both watch if we had a new teacher coming in, what did our principals make so that they did not come in and make more? Or we did have, we had a gym teacher that made 103,000. And we had the principal at North Scituate, he only made 92. So we had to adjust and compensate to get him up there or he would leave. So there's ways to look around this and you can call other superintendents up, speak with them, see what they do with their principals when they come across this. But you got to remember, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with a new solution. There's other schools that's been in the same thing as you. I mean, when we did our contract with the teachers, it shined so well that we had 6 districts call us and they all used our contract for the teachers, for their teachers. So other districts talk to other districts so that you can share and learn from other people, especially if you're new on a school committee. Talk to other school committee members in different districts and learn. So just wanted to put that out there. But talk to other school committee members that have been around for 1,000 years.
So Colleen, am I hearing you saying, Colleen Pendergast, since we have two at the table, would you like the superintendent to go back and hone this chart a little bit more to make it to get rid of some of those variables to make sure that
I don't know that that's possible if it's being driven from a policy. Like if
Well-
you're just giving us, if what I'm hearing you saying, that this is all based on a policy? So the policy is stating that this is what, and does the policy actually state that this is what they're going to be paid?
No.
Okay, so then
This
that's,
is policy 6002, and it does not state what they're going to be paid, but it does say that the superintendent is to put together a criteria and protocol for compensation. And within that policy, it states things, for example, base salary shall be established for each administrative position in the district. The base salary shall be reviewed each year to determine whether the base salaries are competitive related to like school districts and like positions in the state of Rhode Island. The district salary scale for top step teachers, including teacher increments and any and all additional compensations, and yada, yada, yada. I got pages of this. I thought you were referencing your concerns or commenting maybe just that, Coventry, Smithfield, and West Warwick, is that, are these schools that we want to be comparing ourselves to?
I don't know. And I guess to the educators, and I think I alluded to it too, but is it the same thing, being a principal of a school that has 621 students as it is as a school of 100? Should that be reflected in what compensation is? I don't.
So when we originally had this conversation, we said that we would look at neighboring communities. So those buildings that generally have 600 and some odd kids, it's not just the principal. They have an assistant principal.
And those-
They have other, supports in place. So it's not just one person sort of running the show.
Sure.
So that's why I started with the neighboring, because potentially that's where we could lose administrators too. And as I said, Erica asked me to look at those other three communities, which I put in red, and then went back and had to find those salaries and readjust the figures and adjust. I have heard you say you want a financial impact statement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Stephanie.
I don't know how we
is
could
gonna
make a
work.
decision on anything without
Gonna
that.
work on that. If there are other things, if you want me to, delete some communities, add different communities, I will do whatever is the will of the committee.
So you've worked in other districts. These are just strictly general questions. So I'm looking at Coventry right now because I know you have some experience in Coventry. So if I am the principal of, and I want factual information, I'm not looking for you to, of a school that has 313 kids in it. And I am the principal of a school that has 621 kids in it. Now I know you're saying there may be an additional, whether it be a dean of students, and I don't know what the elementary level, how that works. Are there differences in their pay scales based on the size of staff and students that they oversee?
For elementary schools, I don't believe so. They get paid all the same rate. Charahoe, same thing. I was the
Yeah.
principal of the largest elementary school, well over 600 kids. I had no assistant principal. I got the same salary as the principal at Hope Valley Elementary, who had 125 kids. And that was done that way so that you didn't end up with a building like the 600 student building where people said, I'm not working there. I'm not going to take that job because I can go work at Hope Valley with 100 kids. And you find that your bigger buildings end up to be a rotating a rotating door with administrators, because as soon as they can get out.
Yeah.
Because they're, potentially making more and or less money, if it's on a scale, you run the risk of inequity when people say, we're all doing the same job. Yeah, I have more kids, but I have to do the same work.
You do, but yeah.
I get it.
No, no,
I'm
these are
just telling
these
you.
are honest questions that I just, again, I am, and I don't want to use real world experience. I'm in a private sector, right?
Yeah.
Many people are in the private sector
Yeah.
of what they do. And I think most businesses and and again, you're right, your bench can be longer the bigger you are.
Yep.
But a lot of times salary is equitable to the size of your institution or the responsibility. And I get principals have an immense amount of responsibility. I don't want it to see, I just want, and the truth is we need to look at every single one of these policies and practices. It has nothing to do with the principals that are sitting in these positions today. It should be it's just what it should be for everyone from today,
Right.
whether any of us are here moving forward.
In addition, I think to other things you're saying, Colleen, and I had mentioned this to Lori as well. As I pointed out, I'm repeating myself. Some administrators work 260 days.
Yeah.
And I guess ours work 216. So we want to make sure that is equitable, normalized as well. You don't work 216?
With 30 vacation days and the holidays, if you put all of that into the computer and it's a 5-day work, week, it comes up with 216 work days.
Including all your vacation, and
So the
you
contracts,
don't think that's,
well,
we'll
I
look
mean,
into
it's
it.
factual, right? We're gonna figure, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get,
we'll look
that'll have to be whatever, there's data, there's contracts, right? Like, so we can certainly drive down on, so all of our contracts, they did, I don't know if they still do, start on 7/1?
Yes,
All of yes.
yes,
Um,
7-1.
So all of our administrators' contracts have been signed for this year.
The ones that were,
Yes, yes.
well, actually, you have two, and there's another agenda item on your agenda with a template. John and I have worked with an administrator on a template I am requesting that you approve as the template for administrative contracts. And all administrative contracts will, go according to that template that's on your agenda further, somewhere on this agenda. Well, oh, next.
Do we want to put this on the agenda for next month?
Yeah, I think
to have it-
absolutely.
The fiscal impact. I would like to hear from the school committee what they think about removing Coventry, Smithfield, and West Warwick because of their size.
And I don't know that that's the right answer. Like, I don't, and I'm bringing up this, I'm just looking at data points of saying that, and again, does it have as much to do as the size of the district as it does of the size of the school? Again, I think everybody in this building can agree, we're not looking at the urban core. None of these that you presented with me are you know what I mean? That's not, I don't know. These are my thoughts to vet this as best we can.
When I was looking at different comparisons, I noticed that West Warwick has 3 assistant superintendents as an example. That's a big school. They've got an assistant superintendent for the district and one for the elementary and one for the secondary. So I'm just wondering, does that muddle into salaries that 3 people doing the job of we have 1 person doing? Coventry has 3 assistant principals at the high school and 2 at the middle school.
The high school has more children than our entire school district. There's 1,200. Yeah, so I get these are all pieces of, that's, the middle school has 900, these are 23 numbers, not 974 kids in it.
So I'm not sure if
Yeah.
I'm not sure if those are good comp districts for us.
So you want me to remove?
I'm asking the school committee what they think.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I spoke a lot, so somebody else speak.
Any opinions?
I think it's difficult doing a much larger school when, if, like you're saying, not me having dug deep into all this stuff, but if this assistant superintendent's assisting the principal, not superintendent, sorry, assistant principals, But I think what I'd like to see is a comparison of the top paid teacher compared to our principals. That's a concern for me. If teachers with equal education and tenure are being paid more than our principals. That would be information I think is helpful.
I agree with that. And comparing apples to apples, right? Like, so
Salary. Do you want base salary or everything all in if they do all kinds of other stuff?
no, not if, you know, if I'm a teacher and I coach lacrosse and I take care of the drama club, that's not, I think it has to do with what their full-time employment benefit is.
But not including masters or any of that, because I believe our principals also get that.
Unless that's apples to apples. I don't know. I just think it needs to be, you know,
That is on this chart. The teacher top step base salary is 91,238.
hang on, I gotta get that.
And the difference from the top step teacher base salary to the elementary principal is $5,574. That information is on this chart. I did that.
Step ahead. So there, I don't know that's sufficient. I'm not speaking to it, but it's.
But I tried to look at that, but I just looked at base salary, right?
I think I need to dig in these numbers some more. I think we have to have it back on the next agenda anyway. And again, I want to especially look at the three right in front of me, three administrators, right? I couldn't have a better, like, I swear on everything sacred that this has nothing to do, and I can't stress that enough. This has nothing to do with the principals or the administrators in our district. I think I want what's fair, what's equitable, and there's nothing to do with job performance slated in this. So did I say that enough? Okay, thank you.
I would like to hope to pretend that we could find a way to provide some sort of compensation, like Mary Lou Umbriano had said, whatever that is. Because it's just gonna grow and get worse every year.
Again, I do. I think, but we can't start doing that without some form of fiscal impact. So I think
I agree.
maybe Stephanie, if we can, you know, just there's different scenarios that are kind of put out, maybe giving us like maybe one other scenario. Does that make sense? I think, did you put it like over 1 year, 2 years, 3? Like, I'm getting loopy.
I just ate a
Yeah,
chocolate sandwich.
we agreed with that one.
So I'll do a fiscal impact on what Lori's, the superintendent's prepared. And then, I can take a look at it and see if maybe there's a way.
Another way
to
to
out, like-
minimize the fiscal impact
Yeah.
over a certain period of time. But again, just options to look at.
So, we're gonna table this for a vote right now. Are we good to move on? What's that?
Yeah, well, we just table it.
No, we don't have to motion to table. Excuse me for coughing. I'm not sick.
What?
I think it's the air conditioning. I'm making it up. Next on the agenda is,
I'm sorry, what we do? Table.
That's number 9.
it's to the next month. We're gonna have it on for next month. And if anyone comes up with any other questions and or things they want the superintendent to look into, you can reach out to her on your own. Yeah, understood.
Not interplay with the previous one. This contract is separate and distinct from whatever that process is.
That is correct. I am looking for the school committee's approval around the template for an all administrators contracts that you have in front of you. This template was designed in conjunction with an administrator in the district and our legal counsel.
Is our legal counsel still here?
He is.
I have a question, or I just want to let you know, Mr. Anderson, that I took the liberty to make a few changes, but I wanted to point them out to you in case I made a mistake. They're more like typos in the contract for the principals. In here, it referenced being paid equal to the 10-step teacher, but we've got 12 steps, so I assumed you meant top step teacher. I assumed you wouldn't want them to get the same increase as a 10-step teacher when we have 12. Okay. The other one is to make it all gender neutral, because sometimes it said his, sometimes it said her. Let's just clean up. And I had a tricky time understanding, but I think it was explained to me in section 4. It says the person shall be paid an annual salary to be determined, but based on, well, it says his salary, their salary of a certain amount of dollars for the 24-25 school year. While that looks like that's an error because it's 25-26, is that because the contract has not been completed for the teachers? And this is relating to the teacher's contract. Is that why it's a 24-25? Okay. Correct. Yeah, he said it was correct for anyone at home. I think that's the only thing I had asked to be changed. Okay.
Any other substantial changes? I know what we're looking at, and I love the fact that everything to be uniform and, it's equity. Um, is there any changes to this as far as when I was reading through, it still mimics the teacher's contract as far, is there anything that's not in there? Because all our previous contracts, administrators will be entitled to blah, 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 like there's standard verbiage. Does that still stay there?
Yeah, I just mentioned the 12-step, like the top step teacher.
But I mean, for every other benefit that they're allocated to.
In general, the answer to that is yes. The difference is with regard to sick days and other leave days. And in terms of working with the administrator in question, what we've done is we have moved to a PTO system, but we have staked the administrator to a certain amount of days so that the administrator is not being thrown under the bus and going from the 90 days that the administrator can take now for sick days and going to 0. But on the other hand, the 90 days does not refresh every single year.
Right, it's one time
The
only.
way that it currently does.
Okay. John, is there anything that speaks to, and just for our administrators, I know it's very different for, and I don't know if the administrators mimic the teachers, long-term disability. Like if there was something that would have happened to one of our administrators.
And that was an issue that was raised by the administrator and and I don't have the document in front of me, but I believe that where it landed is that if the administrator exhausts all of his or her time under the contract otherwise, and cannot come back for another 6 months, then the contract ends. And the administrator questioned that very particular position. And the response was, you've exhausted all of your other time. The 6 months is to give you the time to qualify for a disability pension through the employee retirement system.
Okay, so I know, like, I'm thinking like TDI, like type of things, but that would be, the administrators are still entitled to the benefits of a union member having paid in all those years for a disability pension, or are you talking like a disability? Am I saying that right?
Let me explain. Teacher retirement is separate and apart from the contract. Teacher retirement is is pursuant to state law and is run by the retirement board.
Yeah.
What we're saying is that after an administrator runs through everything, they have nothing left. They've used every single possible day that they can. They've used the PTO time, they've used the bank, they get staked with in terms of leave that they can use for sick time. They run through everything.
Yeah.
And then they run through another 6 months. Then the contract terminates because the person, as I explained to the administrator who questioned it, is they have that 6-month period while they're still on the payroll, to qualify for a disability pension
Which would be through,
through the state retirement system,
okay, okay.
which they've been paying into and we've been paying into.
And they continue to do that as administrators.
That absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure that
Yes,
was,
I'm
so
sorry.
that, yeah. So that mimics, I just didn't, okay,
The
that's
answer
it.
to that is yes.
So that would be theoretically be the same thing that would happen to a teacher if under those certain circumstances, other than maybe a different amount of sick time days. Is that?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That very much answers my question. Thank you.
If there's no more discussion, do I have a motion to accept the administrator's contract?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
And my understanding would be that this contract would be utilized upon when everyone's contract is due. It wouldn't be,
Right.
oh, yeah.
And the administrator we've worked with on this is an administrator whose contract is due.
Okay, so that's
In
been,
fact, the administrator's contract expired on June 30th.
okay.
And the
But moving
administrator-
forward, those,
That's correct.
okay.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next is title change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Title change for Director of Curriculum to Assistant Superintendent. I'll hand this over to the superintendent.
Yep, I asked that this be put on the agenda. Ozzy and I have had multiple conversations over a number of years around, she has requested that her title be changed from curriculum director to assistant superintendent. When we talked about it last time under the previous chair, the chair and I felt like it was not the best time to make that recommendation to the school committee, given the position was so new in the district at that time. So I did not put it forward to the school committee then. Knowing that that is Ozzy's desire continued. And I have a few years left before I retire. That I thought it might be a better time to put that request forward for school committee consideration and a change in that title.
I'm not making friends tonight. So I think we need to be very, very clear. And I know this was at Ozzy's request. We are not talking about, and I know you've provided us with a number of, we have a job description and we also have a list of what you're saying are additional duties that you're doing. I don't agree with this. And the reason is because again, I've been around for a while in this town. One of the things that Mary Lou was here before you're too top heavy. There are all these administrators. I just don't, I think we just went through a budget cycle. We just talked to, we had, our parents advocate for, and I get that it is, from what I see, it's not looking for any additional conversation. So this is, but I think our role my role, and what again, I'm one person saying this, is that it's not our role is to meet the needs of the district. And historically, I have seen a lot of changes in the 11 years that I've been here. When I first started, we had a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, a consultant superintendent, but we didn't have a business manager. We didn't have we've shifted and changed our hierarchy of things. And the reality is we have a small bench. Mary's gone. Mary spoke earlier about a position being through opera monies. The curriculum director is the only position that was funded through opera money that we as a committee decided, because of the impact and the gains that we're making, it was funded for, yes, so, but we've sustained that position. We did not make a cut to that position because it was what was necessary for the advancement of the entire district. So I believe that, the district, at the size of our district, we need to have a superintendent. We absolutely need a curriculum director, or we wouldn't have fought to keep this position. And my concern is that, it's not about, Lori being a superintendent or Ozzy being an assistant. It's about the positions themselves. We've moved that, and why would we now go back and change and bring it back to, okay, an assistant superintendent? I just can't, I think it's terrible optics to the town. I understand you're not looking to make enemies or get people mad. That's certainly not. I think that if there are pieces, I looked through a lot of what you said. You're a very, very busy lady. And I think that you're eager to learn, and I don't want to prevent you from doing that. But I don't know that we can change a title because of it. Those are my feelings regarding that.
I reached out to my contacts in RIASC. Like Mary Lou had said, and I'm going to reach out to them again about the principal compensations too, because it's a great organization to ask questions to. And it's my understanding that, so correct me if I'm wrong, districts oftentimes either have an assistant superintendent or a curriculum director. Some have both, but usually it's one or the other, and they toggle back and forth. And I said to them that, so like, why, what's the difference? And I had somebody say to me, I can't remember if it was Marianne, that one thing with the assistant superintendent as our curriculum director, if our curriculum director became assistant superintendent, that position, and I don't fully understand what I'm saying, I'm just parroting what I was told, as assistant superintendent opens up more avenues to actually aid in our curriculum. What that means, I'm not 100% sure, but I just know that this person is saying it is an advantage to our district, because if you have an assistant superintendent as your curriculum director as well, and I think you go to a meeting that is, that both either has curriculum directors or assistant superintendents, it is an opportunity, and maybe Ozzy can speak to it, obviously better than I can, that it can actually move our district even more forward if she were an assistant superintendent and the curriculum director. Obviously, she wouldn't have both titles. It would just be moving into assistant superintendent, but because she has her curriculum prowess, it'll actually move the district forward more than we already are.
Hi, Mary Lou Umbriano. It's still on, okay. When I was on the school committee, we had a superintendent, we had an assistant superintendent, but Larry, our assistant superintendent, was our curriculum director. So to change her position, you're right, it gives her more avenues to bring in pilot programs, to bring in different stuff to our district, because she's not just curriculum. She would be assistant superintendent overseeing the curriculum. Now, back in the day when they wanted an all-day K, just to give you a little background, our assistant superintendent was Ms. Stringfellow. She was also overseeing the curriculum. And because she was both, we got the pilot from RIDE to do, and we got paid to take in students to do the all-day K to see if they learned any more in the afternoon versus in the morning. So which one was it better? But when she went to do it as just a curriculum director, they wouldn't let her. So it opens up, like you said, a bunch of different areas that she'll be able to look into to bring to the district. So, when you changed it from a superintendent to an assistant, and we had an assistant superintendent, we had people playing double roles. So we actually covered more position with less people, because the business manager was also Karen or Lisa was one of the girls, one of the secretaries. They covered two positions. So I agree with what you said. If you did make her have the assistant superintendent title overseeing the curriculum, it's two people in one, and it gives her a lot more chances to bring other things to our district. It gives her more power.
Thank you. I don't know you, but better said than I was.
It's really a deal. You get 2 for 1, so think about it.
So again, I just, these are, I don't know how anyone else on the committee feels. I just, again, and we've changed a lot since then, and we've hired business managers. We don't have consultants. And again, it's not about what's present, what moves forward. So once we change this position, if, 5 years from now and different things, are we obligated to hire somebody with a superintendent certification because now we have an assistant superintendent? We've moved away from that to implement things that are boots on the ground, as far as we put in, we added a dean of students. We were able to, I feel as though it's moving back to a way, and it has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with our organizational chart. And we cannot, our organizational chart should not be changed to accommodate any person. It should be what's in the best interest of the organization. That's where I am.
Question of transparency to the public and us. If we are changing or considering changing from director of curriculum to the assistant superintendent, does that mean that we are eliminating the director of curriculum? So that position is not going to sit there saying, oh, we haven't filled this position. We need to know that. because
That's correct.
We're not keeping another position open.
Right, Lori, we're not opening up a position and filling it.
That is correct. This is not a change in duties. It's not a change in responsibilities. It's not a change in job description. It is a change in title only. When we posted the job description for curriculum director, I pulled your previous assistant superintendent job description, and we changed the title and made sure that the curriculum work was there. So it is simply a change in title. Because Ozzy has asked that her title be changed. It is not a change in duties. Her focus will continue to be curriculum, assessment, and improved student achievement. None of that is going to change.
And I do want to comment, Colleen, with our organizational chart, we often change that chart and update it according to what we have decided. We oftentimes have one person doing 2 or 3 jobs. For example, on our current org chart, we have director of facilities and the director of technology. Well, we no longer have that. We've consolidated that because I pulled this up. It's from 2021, and we need to upgrade this or adjust it. So it's my experience that in Scituate, we work with the talent that we have. For example, Paul Lescott was really good at finances. So we didn't have a finance director at that time because Paul did the finances. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I right about that? Finance director and the superintendent. And then it was my recollection when Carol Blanchett came, she came with such a strong curriculum. So she was a superintendent, and then she did the curriculum. Therefore, we hired, instead of her doing superintendent in finances, she did superintendent in curriculum, and then we hired a finance person.
But that's the issue, is that we've continued, and I agree with that. I absolutely agree with
We
that.
work with the talent that
But
we-
it hasn't served us well, in the sense that then we have to recreate other positions. We'll use Carol Blanchett for an example. Carol's entire wheelhouse was curriculum. Like everything her whole life was curriculum, right? So do most superintendents come with that skill set? Absolutely not. Like what she did in her. So then when Carol left, we were, lack of better words, forced to fill, like it wouldn't be realistic to be able to find that person out there. So I don't, and Paul, absolutely, we had no business manager, but Paul did, we got into some, prior to Lori's time and prior to Stephanie's time, we had some real fiscal problems because our system was designed in such a way that one person was working in a capacity it was too much for an average person to do. So we ended up having to get a business manager. Obviously things change and there were people there, but we needed so to do that again is it's setting us back. It's not the trajectory that we've worked for over the last 10 years.
Because that person left and that person covered both and had both
Yep.
certifications.
Yeah, of course.
Just so you know, Lou, if you speak and you're not at the mic, then people at home can't hear you, and we just want to make sure they can hear you.
Okay, sorry.
Jenniferina, 18 Mountain Laurel Lane. I just want to say that I agree with everything that Ms. Pendergast is saying. I work in a district and we do not have an assistant superintendent. I have a director of student services. So I implore you guys to look at other small districts before you make a decision and see what they have. Thank you.
Well, I personally support this for the reasons I stated. I'm not sure if it makes us going backwards. I think we already have the work that our curriculum director goes to meetings, whether you're a curriculum director or assistant superintendent. It helps our district for reasons that I mentioned, and Mary Lou brought some history with that as well. And nothing, why would we not want to increase our curriculum or any other opportunities we have for our students or things that can be brought into the district as a result of opening this? I think it also is really helpful to have a future succession plan when it's a hard place to be when you have a superintendent who retires and then it's like, oh, where do we go? It's nice, seamless. We've been struggling doing superintendent searches. I think I don't see any harm in this at all. Ozzy has done a great job. You can see the other list.
Again, Erica, this has nothing to do with the person. I take offense to the fact that you continue to say the job that.
Matthew Allen. I just have a quick question. Say Lori does retire, right? And Ozzy does take her job. Now, will you hire another assistant superintendent or a curriculum?
That's such my
I'm just curious.
that is such hypothetical. I can't.
But we were just talking about if she were to retire and she slides in.
Okay, first of all, I think that's never going to happen.
Oh.
So, and I'm going to go back to days when we had a superintendent and assistant superintendent, Larry Filippelli, Mike Solito. These people could not be more seasoned or been in this district. We are never going to have an opening for any administrative position that we're never going to open. No one's sliding in anywhere. Do you know? I just want to.
Yeah, no, I was.
It's not.
For the lack of better words, if she were, then she did the job. I was just wondering, would it go back, or would you automatically keep
it's a hypothetical.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Again, in such a small district, we often have one person doing two jobs.
If it gets her, I'm not either or. If it could get us more stuff, that's great with a title, because apparently a title is good. But also, does that mean she's going to get thinned out even more with an extra title? Like I said, I'm on the fence either way. Not my wheelhouse. I just worry because everybody already does wear so many hats. And she does great stuff and she's interactive with the teachers. And I would hate for her to get so thinned out certain things. But I see the title power. The title gives you power. And stuff like that. I totally agree on that.
I just want to, in Ozzy's defense, everything that she has applied for and submitted to RIDE and every other organization she's gotten. So regardless of her title, She has done great work and she's always gotten resources
And
for the.
I
district.
agree.
I want people to know
I,
that.
I totally
want
agree. She comes to the
people
school.
think that she's not able to get stuff for the.
No,
district.
I just through this year that we've watched meetings, we've had multiple conversations about multiple hats, doing multiple things, and because we are such a small district, it's a constant. Okay, I wear 2 hats, and now this position. Now I wear 3 hats. Now I wear 4 hats, and eventually things start to drift. Not saying she would let them drift on purpose, and I said she's doing a great job, and I'm just wondering how thin is thin if
It's my understanding, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, that the work is already being done. Nothing is really going to change other than title, because the work is already being done. So there won't be any stretching thin. It's already there.
So obviously I've spoken, Eric has spoken. I don't know if any other members of, I mean, you can either call for a vote or if anyone else has anything to add. It's
Some clarification, I want to say, all right. On the description we have, it's the Citrus School Department's Director Curriculum Instruction set a job description. So everything's in here. So this is a job description for a person in that position. It's not Ozzy, it's a person in that position. My question is, why under the qualifications for the position, it's highlighted in yellow, certification of Rhode Island Department of Education of Curriculum Director or certification of superintendent school? Why is that one particular thing highlighted?
Because we wanted to make sure that that stayed in there because the thought was that if the superintendent takes a vacation, the curriculum director has the certification to cover the district legally while the superintendent.
So
is
there,
not
there
in
are
the
different
district.
certifications. So there's a certification for
Yes.
curriculum director and a certification
Yes.
for assistant superintendent. And it does
Yes.
not, the position does not, you have both, but the
Yes.
position itself does not require a superintendent certification.
No.
The position of the director of curriculum.
Yes.
So, but now it's, if it was flipped over to say assistant superintendent, it's it. So why not write a description for? All right. Something.
So do it. Oh, thank you. Hi, Lynn, we see you. Just say your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Lynn Rose. I am, my address is 356 Perry Hill Road, Coventry, Rhode Island. I am a special ed teacher at Hope Elementary. I just was trying to clarify. I understand the conversation and the whole difference between the title, but if we're giving her the title and she can get more benefits for our schools, I don't think I think that's kind of like a no brainer. Like we need to do what's best for the school. I mean, she's not asking for more money. She's asking for a different title. So I was just trying to clarify that.
Yes,
What would so how would there be more money for the school if a title change, you have the same degree, you have the same, what's different? How would you get more money?
I don't know if Ozzy has an answer different than this. I'm not aware of any differences. RIDE, when they put out opportunities to write for money and for grants, they don't put them out specific to a position. They don't put them out only to assistant superintendents, only to curriculum directors, only to superintendents. They don't label them that way. So I'm not aware of any opportunities that we would not be eligible for. Maybe John knows something different based on the title of the person submitting the application.
But what would change if the position were to change is that the job description would have to change, because my understanding would be, my guess is that if you are an assistant superintendent, you need to be superintendent certified. Am I accurate in saying that? So right now, the
Yes,
position
absolutely,
is
you do.
for a curriculum director. Yes, if you had the assistant soup, that kind of supersedes that, but moving forward, if it were to change, whoever takes that position would have to have a superintendent certification.
And she does.
Did you want to say something? I saw you get up. I saw you try to get up. I didn't say get up. I'm sorry. It came out wrong. You know, I wasn't sure if you wanted to say anything.
Just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for entertaining this. I think a lot of times our aspirations as we get into the administration world is to kind of go higher in, I started as an assistant principal, and I think if I was to here or anywhere else be a superintendent, for me it would be beneficial to have my resume say I have served an assistant superintendent. Additionally, I do want to say there are a lot of emails that go to different cohorts of administrators, and a lot of the assistant superintendent emails don't come to me from Light, and there's opportunities, let's say wellness. I wouldn't get those opportunities, and granted, Lori has been great in actually forwarding me those emails. My biggest thing is I think this would elevate the teaching and learning. My focus would be on, but to create systems, even the things that I appreciate the superintendent letting me participate in, including the negotiations or policy. I think there is nothing in silo in the school department, and in my opinion, involvement, and literally tried very hard to go above and beyond for the aspiration that I had, which was to become an assistant superintendent. I had brought it up with the previous chair as well. I just want to say that I think our systems can be helped by having a more methodical way of looking and changing our systems. And I would hope that administrators kind of agree with me. I have tried to, in my brain, do whatever an assistant superintendent does already. So just, I do think there's benefits for me personally, but also our school department. Done.
If there's no more discussion, do I have a motion to approve the change of director of curriculum to assistant superintendent?
I make a motion to make that change.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The next item is superintendent's request to carry over 5 vacation days to the next school year.
I make a motion to approve the carryover of 5 vacation days.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The only discussion would be, I want you to take your vacation days, but we would never want you to lose any. And vacation is important, so be mindful of that, please.
Yes.
I say that from the best place possible.
Do I have a motion? I make a motion to approve the first reading of policy 1120, a policy procedure for a request for public records.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? You don't have access to it, Mr. Finnegan? I was just wondering if you had.
Richard Finnegan, can we read it?
Are you asking to have somebody read it? Because you don't have access to read it yourself?
Oh, it's a first reading, isn't it?
Yes. But we don't need to read these policies, pages and pages and pages of policy.
Where's the policy?
It's
not attached to I'm on the Secretary of State's website. It's not attached to your agenda. If you look at the town's agendas on the Secretary of State's website, you'll see all their documents are attached. These documents are not attached. They're never attached. So if we're going to do a reading, let's do a reading.
It's on the agenda.
It's on clerk base.
Well, clerk base is not the Rhode Island Secretary of State. By law, you need it on the Rhode Island Secretary of State's office. Well, there's a reading, so let's do the reading. There's a requirement to do the reading then.
Are we required,
And that's up to the committee. If the committee wants to read, the committee can read. If the
are we
committee doesn't want
required to read it?
No.
Okay. I think at this late hour, and it's a first reading,
What
so
does it say?
at this late hour. Excuse me? No, we have a motion in a second.
No one second.
I don't think we have a full
Mr.
motion.
Anderson and I can debate this in an open meeting complaint. That's fine.
Okay.
This is a reading, and I will debate with Mr. Anderson in my complaint
And bring
against the school committee.
And bring it on.
I
because-
will. I will bring it on.
Bring it on, please.
I will bring it on.
Because it'll be.
This is a reading.
Full of some of your pride.
This is a reading. And we're not reading.
So
So is the committee refusing to read this?
I am not going to read all these policies and pages and pages and pages and pages of policies out loud.
So this is a first reading, and we're not reading the policies. I just want to make it clear.
Correct.
Ask Nancy, thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Don't want to lose my spot. Do I have a motion to accept the first reading of policy 7030 curriculum and instructional materials?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the first reading of policy 1095 homeless education program?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Do I have a motion to accept the first reading of policy 5020 school property disposal?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the first reading of policy 7060 summer school?
So moved.
I'll second. Sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the second reading of policy 1060 open meetings?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the second reading of policy 1050 policy dissemination?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the second reading of policy 1105 at-home instruction?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the second reading of policy 6110 hiring coaches?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to accept the second reading of policy 1070 school committee?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any announcements? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.